Drivers' Championship may be over, but this release of pressure frees up many competitors to throw caution to the wind. With Bathurst offering up many opportunities to throw it away, there must be some relief among them to be able to simply go for it. Let's see who fearlessly tackles the mountain as we get ready to watch the Bathurst 500, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Adam Lindgren and Ryan Jones. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Mount Panorama has a lot to take in. Between a huge number of corners and an impressive lap length, newcomers sometimes take a while just to learn the layout. Let's head to our lap guide to see exactly what they're up against. Welcome to Mount Panorama Circuit. Most drivers simply refer to this place as Bathurst, with it being located just to the southwest of the city's major hub. But most ominously, and perhaps appropriately, it's been nicknamed the Mountain. With more than 500 feet of elevation change over the course of a lap, it's easy to understand why. Though originally built for racing, it's become a street circuit over time, with the track itself used for regular traffic and featuring residential housing all along the roads. This makes this 4-mile, 23-turn course incredibly unique in the world of racing. In the past, the track has hosted a variety of types of cars, including open-wheelers. But modern safety standards means that most competitive racing has now been limited to sports cars and touring cars. However, the dangers are very real due to the incredibly high speeds and lack of runoff throughout much of the circuit. The quickest parts are the run up the mountain straight towards Griffin's Bend, and then the flat-out blast back down the Conrad Straight and into the chase. This chicane was added in the late 80s to break up the run down to Murray's Corner. But while most chicanes are derided for ruining the character of a track, the terrifying speed as you approach it and the general difficulty make it fit right in with Bathurst challenges. However, the toughest portions are undoubtedly along the mountain itself, with notorious corners like the Cutting, Brock's Skyline, the Dipper, and Forest's Elbow. In fact, one of the more unique worries of this course is that all of these parts are so narrow that track blockages due to wrecks are not uncommon in the first few laps. The Australian fans often line the fences and hillsides to witness the daredevil spectacle of drivers trying to claim King of the Mountain. You can't blame them with how rare of a sight a track like Bathurst is today. The sights here are both beautiful in real life and in the virtual world, as iRacing has done a great job recreating this place. But Ryan, you feel the most qualified among us to describe exactly what it's going to be like taking these supercars onto this just historic track.
Yeah, good evening, Joe, or good morning, my time, everyone watching on from home. This track is so iconic, it's so revered throughout not only Oceania, but across the world. Everyone knows of this place because of Bathurst 1000, which is the event we're replicating today with our Bathurst 500. And it is just the ferocious nature of this circuit, 170 meters of elevation change. And you've got to find a balance. You've got to be either fast across the bottom or fast across the top. You've got to adjust your setup to be comfortable at one end or the other. But if you're slow at the bottom, you're going to get overtaken. If you're uncomfortable at the top, you're going to find the fence pretty quickly. So it's really tricky to find that balance. And in the cars, which in themselves are unforgiving, it is one of the toughest races going. And over the course of almost 3 hours today, fatigue is going to really wear into these drivers.
No doubt about that. This has become something of a tradition here in the majors that they've held many of the years, and it tends to be considered one of the toughest of the season. Right now, we are watching qualifying underway, and this is a shootout of the top 10 to try and determine the last places, well, the top places technically, on the grid for the race that is coming up in a few moments' time. They've got a 20-minute open qualifying that they're in right now, with Andrew Waring leading the way. But we have only gotten a few laps in, and there's still a few drivers, a few fast ones, in fact, that we're waiting to get on the board, including our now new reigning champion, Christian Challoner.
Yeah, Christian Challoner is struggled to put a clean lap in around this track. Now, when you get down to the bottom of the hill, there's plenty of grass runoff and gravel runoff to dip your wheels into, and that seems to be where he's catching the most problems. He's very clean on the top of the hill. The trouble is on the bottom of the hill, where he just is having trouble breaking into the cutting and especially carrying speed out of there. So that's a little bit of where he's finding problems. But currently, Andrew Waring leading that pack. He's driven it back to the pits and has dropped back and jumped out of the car. And one of the peculiar things about Q3 in these major sessions is that the drivers are not allowed to take a tow anywhere on the track, so they have to drive the car all the way back around and park it in pit lane. Otherwise, they are going to be they're going to have to settle with the time that they have on the board.
You're right. They won't be allowed back out on track from there. They're treating it pretty realistically. As we watch fourth place Travis Worling try to weave it along the top of the hill and get the most out of it. He's about a second and a half off of our pole time, which sounds like a lot, but Ryan, it's quite a long lap around here. I mean, if you were in his car, would you feel hopeful that you could make up at least a chunk of that?
Yeah, so a 2-minute 5.3, that's the benchmark set by Andrew Waring. Now, Solison International Region, I commentated that split as well. Drivers were quite a way away from their Q1 and Q2 times, where the top 10 was compressed by 7/10 of a second. The gap was much more significant in Q3. There's a number of reasons for that. I think the most notable, Joe, is the track temp. It is sky high. It's 47 degrees Celsius, which I think translates to 117 degrees Fahrenheit. That has a massive effect on the setups of these cars, which in turn affects the handling and comfort levels, which affects your speed greatly across the top.
Ooh, and speaking of the top, Christian Challoner goes to that spot. He's got a 10th over Andrew Waring, who immediately pops back into his car and says, now's the time to see if I can improve. As you are correct, it is 117 Fahrenheit currently on the surface. Challoner continues around to see if he can dip that 205.1 any lower. What's interesting to note is that Christian has mentioned this is not a race, a car, a track combo that he feels totally comfortable. You wouldn't know it by the pace that he's showing right now.
You know, his pace is quite good at this point in the race. Andrew Waring on the regular qualifying sheets was about 4.5 tenths up from him in the qualifying Q1 and Q2 that we had going on before this Q3 happened earlier in the week. So Christian Challoner being able to jump up above Andrew Waring, there's a reason why Andrew's going back out there. Steve Driscoll comes across the line. Unfortunately, that lap's not going to count. And my goodness, it's just gotta hurt if you put in like really good time over the top of the hill and dip one wheel off the pavement when you get into the cutting to lose all that.
Everywhere else around the circuit, it's not great. You need to be able to braking point into acceleration zones, and you can't do that particularly well when you're tucked up under the rear wing of someone else. Now, let's see. Too close across the top. He's going to get a toe for a little bit there. Driscoll's backed out of his team a little bit. Going to gain that.
Slow. He's got a 206.8 on the board, which is good enough for 7th place. As you can see, Driscoll has decided to duck it down pit lane himself, get some fresh rubber, and head out one last time. He'll have time for an out lap and a flyer, I believe. Maybe one more if he really hustles. Challoner, who has continued on, has not been able to drop below his 2:05.1, so he sits in the same position there. This is the driver chasing him on screen. Another of our unorthodox drivers, Andrew Waring, down towards the chase. Noticing a lot of drivers with their first lap being their quickest, but we haven't seen a whole lot of track temperature increase.
No. So you'll often find that in these sessions. Go out there and you pump in your banker lap. But often that seems to be your quickest because then you start pushing and you start overdriving the car. And this is one track, maybe more than above any other, where you can't afford to overdrive the car. Is Waring into Murray's corner, the final corner on the circuit. Gets it slowed, turned, and gets the power down. There's a 4.993. There you go. Only driver into the fours in this session. Now he's on pole, provisional pole by 0.2 of a second.
Here comes Christian Challoner around the final corner. He's going to try and bop himself up there. Let's see whether or not he's been on a longer run than Waring, so he might have tires that are spent, a 35.768, so he doesn't quite have the juice left. I think the hot temperatures are wearing out those tires faster than he was expecting.
Potentially let him cool down on a slow lap. As we watch Travis Warling sitting in fifth. He's got half a second just to get to the next car up. That would be Eric Smith, who I'm surprised is in pit lane because he's only 16 thousandths off of Driscoll to get to the inside of the second row. Warling does not set a time. He must have either been on an out lap or found himself a little bit of grass. Stevenson, 2:07.7 is not going to be an improvement, so we look at Schmeier instead, who sits last of the drivers who have come out here. We're currently missing, I think, Kevin Hill right now. Schmeier, unfortunately, going to stay in ninth that time across the line.
Now these drivers have to get going, Ryan, because they're definitely going to be running out of time. Remember, we only have 3 minutes 15 left in the session. If they don't start a lap before that timer hits 0, they're going to be out of luck.
Yeah, well, Eric Smith down on pit road, he's still got time to get out and do another final lap in this session, so he can still afford to sit there for about another 40-odd seconds, and then you want to get a move on. That was Wade Hayes crossing the line. It was a 2:07.007 for him, his fastest of the session so far. Now he heads up Mountain Straight. You can't quite tell, but this is very much an uphill gradient, and then you go back downhill for a fraction, and then you really begin the climb as you head up through Griffin's Bend. As watchers of the Real Life 1000 this year know, now renamed Penrite Pass, much to the displeasure of just about everyone who watched the race. Andrew Waring, I don't expect this to be a quick lap, and now he comes to pit road with just 2 minutes 20 left on the clock. That is our provisional pole sitter done for the session. Now he will wait with bated breath to see if anyone can challenge him. What about Christian Challoner? Off the back of a slow lap, what's this one going to look for him?
Murray's right now down into the timing line, which comes up quick. It's a 2:04.8. That'll do it. And just by under 0.2 over Andrew Waring, who has no time to respond.
Just to report, Eric Smith has not left pit lane. 2 minutes are ticked by, so he's definitely going to be settling with that fourth place at best. Let's see whether or not anyone can jump in.
Warling's going to be the next one to the line. Yeah, and as he comes up to Murray's, he's still mired down in fifth with a big gap to make up. 2:06.2. Is this going to be any higher? No, a 2:06.4, just off of his best.
There's a couple drivers on lap still. Steve Driscoll, I've spied coming out of Forest Elbow with a bootload of oversteer. Jeff Schmeier is a lot further up on the racetrack. He's heading into the final corner. It seems a little bit off the pace. He drives it around the apex there. You don't want to touch the curb, otherwise you'll get up on 2 tires. A 2:11 for him. He will stay in ninth. Who's the next driver on the racetrack? Wade Hayes out of the chase into pit road. Going to abandon his efforts. Steve Driscoll is just coming out of the chase as well now. What can he do if he finds... Ooh. Well, that might ruin his lap. That was a lot of oversteer. Really lit the rears up.
Looks like he caught that curb, and I wonder if that upset the car as he slides it around Murray's. And a 2:06.2 is definitely off the pace for him. Up next, driver very familiar to us on the channel, Bradley Haley.
He's very
on a
slow.
slow lap. Yeah, so he's maybe trying to start one last flyer.
You'll have to cross within the next 30 seconds. Christian Challenger coming down Conrad straight into the cutting. Let's see what kind of a time he could put in. He's already got the fastest time, so I guess he could just be on an in lap at this point because Waring doesn't have an opportunity to respond, and Driscoll set a poor lap last time by, so maybe Christian's going to put in another flyer, or maybe he's just on an in lap here. Let's find out.
Trying to get as much practice as possible, too.
Ooh.
Oh, as he cooks it out of the chase, and looks like he is indeed going to come on into pit lane. With 2 seconds left, that means the checkered flag now flies. Travis Warling up next. He's coming down towards the chase. Anybody going to get through here clean? It seems like it's proving a tricky spot at the end of quali.
Getting it slowed from top speed to about 100 kilometers an hour and then turned in both directions puts a lot of stress on every aspect of the car. He did a fast lap last lap. It was only 2/10 off his previous best. Can he do 2 fast laps in a row? I don't think it's possible. What does he do? A 6.5. It was fast, but not fast enough. He will stay 5th for now. Who else have we got? Is there anyone left to challenge that front row that seem to be in a league of their own?
Jeff Schmeier's up next. He's going to be trying to get off of the final position in this qualifying. Let's see whether or not he can improve his time. It's going to be a 2:08.844, so that does improve his time, but not his position.
I think Bradley Haley can do one more lap because he was across before.
He's very slow.
Yep. Okay, so that is going to be it for him, and that means our qualifying is over. We'll go through our starting order in a bit, but the grid is indeed set. In the meantime, why don't we take a glance at the big picture and look at some of our championships? Of course, starting with the Drivers' Championship, which, as I mentioned, is now settled. Christian Challenger cannot be reached by Steve Driscoll, who is more than 700 points back. He himself and Warling are in a very tight fight to settle best of the rest, and they are well out of reach of those behind them. Liam Quinn, who's had a good enough season, but unfortunately not good enough to be on the top spot. Still, he's got to be proud of a top 5 here. And how about Brian Barnes? Not only being up in the legend standings, but good enough to be within the top 5.
And next up, we have the elite team standings that we're going to talk about. This is led by Kinetic Americas, and while it's not mathematically impossible for Unorthodox to catch them this round, realistically it is based upon their qualifying efforts. So Kinetic Americas, barring any sort of big penalties, should be able to walk away with this team's championship. Dog Bear Red and White are separated by enough that it's going to be a little bit of trouble for those two to try and catch each other, or Unorthodox Motorsports as well. Sector 5 Racing is close enough to Dog Bear White to challenge possibly for that 4th position, so look for that to possibly change in these last 2 rounds. Ryan?
Yeah, the Legends standings are reasonably close as well. It may seem like a lot, but it's definitely a attainable gap. Brian Barnes leads by 338 points for Kevin Hill. Remember, 500 points for a win. Rob Gall is 3rd, Wayne Hutchinson 4th, Brian McGreevy 5th. Pretty close for the 2nd and 3rd, and then 4th and 5th battles too. So definitely a lot to play for still in Legends.
Now, we'll have the race coming up soon, and to give you a little bit of a teaser as to what you're about to see, here's our race details. The cars that are going to be running in are the supercars, no longer called the V8 supercars, unfortunately, but the Ford Mustang and the Holden Commodore are the two they are able to choose, and there is nothing between them. They are the exact same car physically, just they visually look different here on the sim. They have 81 laps that they will have to compete. This is going to be close to 3 hours long. We were talking about that fatigue that the drivers will be experiencing. That is why it is open setup in these series, and this will certainly be critical in this car, which is so susceptible to that. And they have an incident limit. At 60 of them, you will be disqualified on the spot. I'll be impressed if anybody is able to reach that and still have much of a car left on them. While we take a quick break and they get the cars ready to grid up, we'll be back in a moment with the Bathurst 500 here, the penultimate round in the majors. any of them, you will be disqualified on the spot. I'll be impressed if anybody is able to reach that and still have much of a car left on them. While we take a quick break and they get the cars ready to grid up, we'll be back in a moment with the Bathurst 500 here, the penultimate round in the majors. Welcome back to Mount Panorama Circuit. We are getting ready to watch round 13 of the majors. It's the Bathurst 500. And as always, every race here in the majors is brought to you by a special charity. Today's charity is Mission Australia. They deliver homelessness crisis and prevention services, provide social and affordable housing, assist disadvantaged families and children, address mental and health issues, fight substance dependencies, support people with disability, and much, much more. Together, we stand with Australians in need until they can stand for themselves. To find out how you can help, visit missionaustralia.com.au. And of course, the way they help raise funds here is the drivers are allowed to qualify once, and if they want to qualify more, well, it costs them a little bit of money, and all that money goes towards each round's charity. And don't forget also, if you want to follow the racing here today, you can catch it on gsrc.tv, where we'll have all the live timing and scoring of every single car on track, no matter who we're showing on screen at the time. We're just waiting for the clock to tick down, and then we've got the cars ready to grid up here. I'm looking forward to this one, Ryan. I mean, if you are one of the drivers on the grid and waiting for that green flag to drop, are you feeling any butterflies at this point?
I don't know, it depends on the driver, doesn't it? It's a long race. It's 81 laps is a ridiculous length. I mean, in the 1,000, there's limits in place that the driver cannot do 3.5 hours in one stint. We're going to be getting close to that number with 81 laps today. So it is going to be really tough for these guys. You don't want to take that line through the dipper because you will find the fence on the right. Going to be a long race, going to be 3 pit stops required, a little bit of strategy to come into play there as well. Overtaking is going to be tricky for the most part, but it's definitely possible, and this should be an absolute cracker. It always is when you come to Mount Panorama.
Certainly is, as we watch a few of the drivers just try and get the last few warm-up laps in as well. And, you know, it's not just the pace out here. We've talked a lot before the race, Adam. Pit strategy going to be an interesting one, since they could have about 3.5 tanks full that it takes to get around here. I imagine that opens it up at least a little bit.
There's a little bit of interpretation available for you towards the end of the race, or if you want to take an early pit stop at the beginning stint. But you got to remember that with the temperatures we're seeing, tire wear is going to be more important than ever. And also getting a light amount of fuel for that final stint. So you're going to be looking for those. The drivers are going to want to go as long as they can on those first couple stints, and especially with the absence of a safety car around here in iRacing, it makes things very difficult to try and play different sort of fuel strategies. So the limitations coming in from the weather and from the lack of safety cars is going to mean that these drivers are going to be a little bit more locked into strategy than they would be normally.
This new dog bear paint scheme. Sorry, go ahead. There, I got.
I have a counterpoint to that strategy there, Adam. So I commented on the international one, as I mentioned earlier on. We saw some decent strategy games. Tires, track times, exactly the same as it was for us over there. Tires weren't that much of a factor. After the initial drop-off, they plateaued out towards the end of the stint. So you could stretch an extra lap or two. We saw one driver manage to extend his stints to 24 laps. But also, during one of your stops, you can stay stationary for 12 seconds less and short fuel the car, because you don't need 3 full tanks on each pit stop. So normal pit stop is 42 seconds. You can do a 30-second stop in one of your pits today. When you take that is crucial. It was a case of short fueling on the second stop for our eventual winner that gained him the lead of the race, while the runner-up short fueled on the final stop and lost out on track position.
Well, speaking of track position, let's go through our starting grid as the cars are hitting it now. Christian Challoner's on the pole with Andrew Warren starting in second. Steve Driscoll will be P3, and Eric Smith starts in fourth. Travis Warling with fifth today, Bradley Haley in P6, and then Mark Stevenson starts seventh. Wade Hayes in eighth, Jeff Schmeier in ninth, and Dick Mueller, Adam, will start in 10th.
Brian Bennett's going to start off 11th with Brian Barnes alongside him in 12th. Liam Quinn 13th with Ryan Thomas starting off in 14th. Samuel Harris 15th today with Adam Halleck 16th. Nick Kuhn, Brian McGreevy, David Warner, and Lionel Calisto round out your top 20.
Starting off 21st, Austin Espedy, William Fletcher next to him, Scott Corbin, Lynn Kitchlow in row 12, Mark Herzog and Wayne Hutchinson 25th and 26th, Ryan Steele Bob Beltrami, Jason Wallett, Brett Chosen, Jimbo Pfeiffer, and David Hawley 32 cars for 500 kilometers at Mount Panorama.
And it is a standing start, as is traditional in this real-world race, as the drivers are going to be revving soon because the lights are up. Green flag is out for 500 kilometers around here at Bathurst, and Christian Challenger is leading down into Hell Corner. Andrew Waring following him behind, doesn't challenge. In fact, it's pretty single file for our top runners. One driver off course in the background. Otherwise, it looks relatively clean.
Another driver being David Warner, who went off in the background. We have another driver off, that's Brett Trosen, who's in the background, also off track. And a couple times we started in the pits, but otherwise a fairly clean start. But as we head into Griffin's here, things are going to get more complicated. We already have a car off in the wall. That was Mark Stevenson.
And a change for the lead as Waring was able to overtake Challenger into Griffin's Bend. Already he's got the needed track position as they hit the cutting for the first time and really start to climb.
It was a poor start for Eric Smith. He lost 2 spots off the line. He was trying to come back at Mark Stevenson inside line for the cutting. Because he was on the outside, Stevenson did not have the grip he expected, and that's why he fired off towards the tyre bundle. He might have got away with it. He might have just kissed it. Don't think there's going to be too much damage to his car, but fantastic move from Waring. And the top 3 are still nose to tail as we head down the mountain for the first time. The mammoth drop through the skyline and the S's, and then the dipper, the left front, picks up off the racetrack, and that was wide, just gets away with it.
So they now come into Forest Elbow looking for that critical run. Can Challenger try and challenge back on Waring? Oh, it doesn't look like the best of exits for him as they start to pick up speed. It is basically a lone kinetic racing car amongst a sea of unorthodox drivers who have just locked out the top of the field today.
Christian's used to this kind of fighting, and track position is so important, so if he has an opportunity, he might take it here. But look at that, a nice cover up there from Andrew Waring on Christian Challenger. Christian starting to lose a little bit of touch from Andrew, takes it a little bit deep through the chase, a little bit loose as well on the exit of the corner, but both Andrew and Christian with some great pace over Steve Driscoll and Travis Worling.
So far, so good, as I'm keeping an eye when we were watching everybody come through Murray's, but I was making sure that the chase saw everybody get through successfully, and they did, which is impressive on the first lap when everybody's just getting used to things and up to temperature on the tires. Meanwhile, look at the run from Christian Challenger off of Hell Corner, and could he pull one right back on Andrew Waring? He's closing in, but he's being forced the long way around. Andrew holds the middle of the track, starts to squeeze him back as he wants to open this up as far as possible. They head side by side into Griffin's Bend. Somehow Christian manages to hold on to it. That is a rare feat. He's going to have a nose in, but he decides better of it now that they hit the cutting.
He could have got on with that there at the cutting. He'd done the hard part going around the outside of Griffin's Bend. The onus was on Waring to back out, not Challenger, but he errs on the side of caution. And we continue on with both of them still in the race, but Challenger then showing plenty of pace and plenty of grip to stick that car on the outside of Griffin's Bend. Wonder if the tyres are still just coming up to temperature a little bit, and that may have played a part as we go past McPhillamy, one of 3 very popular camping spots on this racetrack at the top of the mountain.
Back down the hill, and the top 7 are all well within distance of one another. Dick Mueller is the last one in our first line of cars. Not really much distance being put between our leaders currently, so one slip up could be costly.
And as they head back down onto the Conrad Straight, things getting a little bit more spread out than they were last time. Christian Challenger doesn't quite have the advantage on Andrew Waring that he did in the draft. He is pulling a little bit more than Driscoll is behind him. I don't think he's going to be quite close enough for a move as they head into the chase this time.
Doesn't look like it, even though he closes in under braking. Now climbing back up over the crest and down towards the final turn. Everybody's already pushing hard in this nearly 3-hour race, and they come to complete lap 2. Christian keeping the pressure on. Waring can't do much to get out of line here because it certainly looks like 37 is ready to take advantage of anything.
Now, there's a decision to be made here. You can save fuel. It's a 23-lap stint you get out of these cars. You can go 24. There is a opportunity to go for the overcut if you think you can do that. And there is definitely an ability to save a chunk of fuel being in the draft. With how long these straights are, you can save quite a bit and reduce the length of your stop by just a little bit. Even a tenth or two of a second can make all the difference at a track where, despite its reputation for long races, it also has just as big of a reputation for close finishes, because something about this place, it never fails to provide the fireworks at the end.
There's a little bit of action going on in the mid-pack. Wade Hayes is actually starting to drop a little bit backwards from his starting position. He started off in 9th, started off in 8th, and has dropped back towards the 9th position now. And Wade just looking like he's not really finding pace, especially at the bottom of the mountain, especially going onto the mountain straight and through Griffins. He's really struggling a little bit on pace. And there it was a little bit wide there through the dipper there, so a little bit struggling on that with that car right now. Maybe he's got the tires a little bit too hot.
It was Bennett that overtook him, and it's actually down at a 10th place for Wade Hayes, so down 2 spots. Bennett already stretching away from him. Clearly, he was being held up a little bit. As that spreads apart, it continues to close together between Challoner and Waring. Less than 2 tenths between our first and second place. How much is this Challoner just biding his time, or is he truly stuck behind our new leader?
No, we should go on board with Challoner here, Joe, because this is where the money is made, theoretically speaking. Trying to follow someone this closely at this racetrack. At this point, it's not too bad. The track is relatively flat. Now you're going uphill. You can't see it in this shot. You can't even really see it in TV. But I was very much corrected yesterday.
Sorry to break away, Ryan, but we have a big wreck in the back of the field. Ryan Tama, Austin Espedy, and I believe Scott Corbin were all involved.
Oh, we can't go to it for now, because right now the battle for the lead is on once again. Doesn't try the outside this time. Challoner backs out early, gives him a decent launch, but the car squirms as he tries to apply the throttle. This time, Waring holds the inside of the corner into the cutting, still playing defensive.
Now, this is where it gets tricky to follow, because you're carrying the throttle for so much of this section of the racetrack. You can get away without even touching the brake if you're very fortunate. Bit of a safety dab through the metal grate on the right-hand side, back there at Solomon Park, and then into McPhillamy. Avoid the grass on the right, because it can spit you left if you clip it with a lot of load through the race car. And you come back down the hill. This is very much single file. Trying to overtake here is signing your death warrant. Then you can set yourself up for one of the most underrated corners in the racetrack. The right-hander before Forrest's elbow sets up any moves you can spring there if you're close enough. Christian wasn't.
Yeah, he's still a good half second behind on Waring, so he's not going to get the opportunity. But the top 3 are pulling a gap at this point. You can see behind them Eric Smith, who recently took that 4th spot, is ways back. Adam Halleck, in the meantime, seems to have gone off in McPhillamy Park and gets the car going once again. Quick verbal update. Adam, I know you caught the big accident back there. What happened?
Yeah, it was Austin Espedy, Halleck, and I believe it was Ryan Toma who was also involved in that. They all just spun coming out of Murray's and ended up collecting the 3 of those guys. So unfortunately, all of them with a little bit of damage, but these supercars are fairly resilient, so hopefully it won't be affecting their drive too much.
Challoner closes it back down, even though he didn't get the best of runs down Conrad. Seems he's pretty good afterwards, because it's 0.3 of a second. And could he challenge for the 2nd time in a row up Mountain Straight? It's looking like it. Waring holds the middle of the track one more time. Challoner, will he try and once more try and keep the grip on the outside of Griffins? No. Behind him, taking a little bit of a peek, Steve Driscoll is threatening. I don't think he can afford to try and hold side by side.
He's got to be careful now. Every time he looks at Griffin's Bend, if Driscoll's closer on the next lap and Challoner tries to cut back like he's been doing, he could find at one point that Driscoll gets his car alongside him. So he's got 2 team cars working against him. And if they're smart, Waring and Driscoll, they could shuffle Challoner back to 3rd here. But this is interesting. I think the slowest of the 3 is actually the one leading.
certainly looks like he's plugging up the spigot as they head over Skyline, down into the dipper one more time. Let's see if anybody can maybe pick up a little bit of ground through this twisty little section as they drop elevation corner after corner and into Forest Elbow. Doesn't look like any one of them is finding an advantage, but a little bit of a slip up from Driscoll costs some time off of that final left-hander as they now pick up speed just when he wants to be holding on to the rear wing of that 37.
Challenger's actually pretty close to Waring. If this was later in the race, he might be able to make a move into the chase. He's actually going to try one right now. He looks up the inside of the chase on Waring. Waring's just going to outbrake him into that corner, but that was an attempt there from Christian Challenger to try and make a move. Very close stuff for those drivers.
Temperatures have been rising, by the way, since the race started. It's up to 120 degrees Fahrenheit as we are getting deeper into the afternoon. So that sun is certainly baking. Watch them come down the pit straight here. Challenger continuing to apply the pressure. Seems to be his strongest spot on the track, and it is, again, the best place for him as he gets right underneath that rear wing, but he won't get as much of a slipstream. And yet again, he's pulling to the side. But it looks like, Ryan, to your point before, I don't think Driscoll is nearly close enough to make this a problem.
No. Challenger's not even realistically looking at the outside. He's just trying to avoid lifting off.
But is that really a good idea, Ryan, with the fuel saving that's necessary for the rest of this race?
Yeah. I mean, we always harp on about fuel saving, but honestly, it's not necessary. It can save you a couple tenths. It can mean the difference, but you have to short fuel anyway. You're already taking 12 seconds less in pit lane. 3.75 liters of fuel flow going into the car per second. So 45 liters in a 111 liter tank.
You're trying to do math here? That's dangerous.
Yeah. what I'm saying is you still need 60 liters on that short stop to get to the end. So no matter how much you save, you're still coming in for a very substantial period of time.
That clearly doesn't seem to be of concern to Challenger, our new champion. Oh man, that was a poor exit out of Forest Elbow for him. So Waring looks much safer as they get up to speed, 165 miles an hour. As they come up to the chase, 175, 180 miles an hour, 185 before finally slowing it down for the chicane here at the end of the lap. We're only getting ready to start lap 7. That's how long it takes to get around here. Let's look a little bit farther in the mid-pack. We've been paying attention a lot to these leaders, and now that they've separated, Adam, I feel like you've seen some battles in there.
Yeah, I've been keeping my eyes on Lionel Callisto. He's actually making some decent moves up the track. Little train currently in P15, tucked in behind Samuel Harris in the number 2 holding machine that he's got going right now. This DMG United holding machine is actually proving to be quite a handful for him, but he's putting the pressure on Harris, and Harris, both of them actually missed the apex at Murray by quite a bit there. But looks like Callisto has the measure on Harris, and if he can get a good exit through Hell's Corner, he might have an opportunity here.
I'm sure this place has some bittersweet memories for Callisto. This is where he won a championship prior here in the majors, and he's much faster down mountain straights, so he's easily able to overtake Harris and move himself up into P14.
Harris just lifted off and let him go there. Not a bad call. Callisto's already up 5 spots, and you can make that 6 spots now in this race. A little bit of damage to his right-hand side, bit of paint scraped off, but nothing that should be affecting his performance. So he's made solid early progress in this race. Unfortunately, starting at the back is inevitable. He's 21 seconds away from the race lead. Certainly a chance for a top 10 still on the cards for him if he continues up with this early pace. Lap 7 of 81.
Had an incident with Hall. Wonder if we could get a replay of the number 10 here, because he lost a number of positions after making contact with the outside barrier. This was in the final corner. Oh, is he in a battle right here? Almost looked like it.
That was Brett Trocine, who's also been a little bit slow, and they were passing him. And there's that moment that you see Murray's corner just takes it too deep into the brakes and ends up hitting the outside wall. Couldn't get the cork turned. And this is live right now. Austin Espy's going to take it up the inside. Holy smokes.
That was very bizarre. Almost looked like maybe wheel spin or something from Hall, that he lost control temporarily.
Well, Joe, I think Hall and Trocine both have damaged vehicles. Espedy, I believe he's taken his free repair, his spare car at least already. So these two drivers that are now behind him are probably going a good 20 to 40 Ks slower than him.
Whoa!
Yeah, that was
that
a
car
moment.
was not stable. That was Espedy.
Certainly struggling as he comes out of Forest Elbow and now at least gets to point the car straight for a while. Behind them, you might catch flashes of Jimbo Pfeiffer, who started from pit lane and has been trying to catch the back of the field. There you see him now heading along Conrad himself in that bright pink Mustang.
The start from pit lane strategy is an interesting one at Bathurst. I don't see the point in it. He might not have done it intentionally, but two people did it in International. One of them was championship leader. Here we go. Look at this battle.
Brian
Adam
Bennett.
Griffin, Bennett.
Yeah,
and
Bennett just made the
Stevenson.
pass on Stevenson right there. It was actually a really good move. We're going to take a look at this one from Brian Bennett, getting up the inside of Stevenson, going through Griffins.
No coverage from Stevens either. He just left the door open. Maybe not wanting to try and fight it. In fact, he had to lift a little bit as he could not come down to the apex through the corner. So maybe some drivers already a little bit in survival mode here. Stays with him after that overtake, though. So they take it down through the S's. That's a big mistake. Good catch from the 53 to keep it out of the wall. Oh, that had to be a heart and mouth moment for Mark Stevenson coming down into the dipper and nearly tank slapping it into the concrete.
There's a decent train down the order at the moment. Back in 20th, Scott Corbin's leading Wayne Hutchinson, Bob Beltrami, William Fletcher, and then just off the back of them is Ryan Steele, and he's lapping about the same pace as him, so if they start battling, he'll close in as well. These guys are all up from where they started, so they've all made progress, part in thanks to some of the drama we heard from Adam earlier on in the race. I wonder if there could be a move at the end of Conrad for any of these drivers if they get decent enough runs. Looks like they're all pretty stable out of there. Wayne Hutchinson may be in a bit of strife down at the chase from Bob Beltrami.
I don't know if this is your first time watching the Americas region, but Bob, for us, has been lovingly nicknamed the Salami. And looks like he is not close enough indeed, as the Dog Bear Racer is still trying to gain ground on that number 17 as they come out of the chase. 9 laps in, not even close for anybody to start thinking strategy here. So those stuck in this line, they've got to try and do it on the track. A little bit of a lockup from Hutchinson there.
Yeah, I think to remind the viewers about is that these supercars do not have anti-lock brake systems like GT3 cars might in a couple of our other series that we watch. So these cars are all modulate throttle and brakes based upon driver input only. So especially with the amount of power and the amount of braking force that these cars can apply, it can actually be really hard to keep this beast of a car underneath you when you're going, especially around here at Bathurst.
No traction control either, Joe.
I was going to say is Martin Brundle likes to say your traction control and anti-lock brakes are your right and left foot. So as they come up through the cutting, watch that mid-pack battle. Haven't missed anything up at the front. And Scott Corbin racing for the Kinetic team, leading the way of about 4 cars. Ooh, and let's go to Christian.
Machine, isn't there?
Sorry, we got to go to our leader. The 37 has a look to the inside in the chase. Waring doesn't defend, but he's able to still cover him off.
That was a ton of inside curb that Christian Challoner took there through the chase. Unfortunately, that's going to lose him a little bit of time, but yeah, unfortunately, that was a decent run that Christian Challoner had, but he was lost about a good half second now at that point.
Jeff Schmeier, unfortunately, found himself in the tires out of Forest Elbow, it seems. That lost him a couple spots. I think he's able to get the car going once again. Here's the replay.
Yeah, it was a pretty significant hit here. We're going to see it here as he just, that's him going. dipper, and here he comes into Forest Elbow, and you'll see him hit the outside barrier right there, and it picks the car up off the ground, actually. So, unfortunately, that's not going to be insignificant damage. I believe that was Lionel Kalisto who just missed him there.
It was indeed. Good heads up from the number 2 car to get himself out of trouble. That could have gone wrong so easily.
That's a shame for Kalisto, because he was working so hard on that lap to stay glued to McGreevy and was in prime position to pull a move on McGreevy down Conrad into the chase, but that little checkup on the exit cost him that spot. I guess he did technically gain a spot though. And all said and done, look at the amount of cars in shot there. 12th place McGreevy, and then back down to 16th place Nick Kuhn.
Yeah, oh boy, you're not kidding. In fact, you could almost count Brian Barnes in that group as well. Kalisto, well, he's wasted no time in making up the gap that he lost. Look at this. He's right behind McGreevy now. Can barely see over that spoiler as he tucks it underneath. Coming through McPhillamy, loses a little bit, hitting the curb. Now they plunge back downhill one more time.
You know, and the drivers talk about this all the time, but there are 2 different ways you can set up these cars, at least. Well, there's lots of different ways you can set up these cars, but 2 different ways for feel. One is that whether you prefer a snug car or a loose car, and it sure looks like Lionel Kalisto prefers a loose car because he's making speed even with that car getting sideways more and more often.
Didn't get the exit that he wanted coming out of Forest Elbow. I think, just in case, we might want to check back in on Challoner and Waring. Ooh, Challoner actually taking a look into Hell Corner of all places. He's been good off of this turn, but that's with a free exit. And you can see as he gets pinched, he doesn't quite have the shot that he wants. Still, he'll get the slipstream here, Ryan.
Yeah, Hell Corner's a decent overtaking opportunity. We see it a lot. But it does mean you're on the outside for Griffins. He tried to duck to the inside, but Waring is not going to give up that third line at all in this race if he has anything to say about it. I think he's going to try somewhere else, man. He's going to try out the chase. It's the only other place he can get this done. Or if he stays glued to him, he could go for one at Forest Elbow. But that spot is risky in real life, and in the sim, it's even more treacherous.
It looks like Samuel Harris is actually going to try and make a move on Lionel Kalisto here. Lionel's going to back out of it. This is for P13. Sam Harris caught up to the back of these guys very quickly. And now Brian McGreevy has the company of 2 drivers to try and worry about. Sam Harris with some decent speed. He's going to look up the inside here. No way. Oh my goodness. He hits the inside wall.
So holding him off, Brian McGreevy says, "You shall not pass," and retains 12th place. What kind of damage has that put on the left side of the number 42? Hopefully it did not hurt the suspension.
Interesting that Kalisto lost a spot in this battle.
Especially, as you mentioned, he's had good pace up to now. Harris looks a little bit slow here. He drops off of McGreevy across the top of the mountain. That's not a good sign.
Wonder if Kalisto had a look at turn 1 maybe, or the final corner, and that put him on the outside, allowed Harris to get by. Harris could have knocked the engine with that hit to the inside of the cutting as well, don't forget.
Yeah, he did actually. Kalisto did take a look at Hell's Corner on Brian McGreevy. Couldn't get the job done. That gave him a bad exit. And Samuel Harris says, wow, that's not how Kalisto gets extremely loose exit in the corner. But now, because of them being held up on the top of the hill by Sam Harris, this has brought Jeff Schmeier, Nick Kuhn, and Brian Barnes all back into the picture.
That was that train that we were talking about a little bit earlier. Everybody's got to be on their P's and Q's in this group. As we're watching this, I'm keeping half an eye on Christian Challoner because he's got another run up Mountain Straight. I'm not sure if he's going to make an attempt, though. He is indeed. So, but once again, it's going to be to the outside as the 37 just can't get that line that he wants on this corner. We've kept the cameras on the battle for 12th as nothing has changed up with the leaders. McGreevy takes it into Hell Corner, and everybody behind him follows.
He locks up the right front a little bit there, so unfortunately that's going to make him a little bit slower, but here's the real test of whether or not that top speed's going to be down for Sam Harris. Let's see whether or not Kalisto can gain, but it looks like he's going to be okay, Ryan.
He is. I'm still watching the leaders, because guess what's coming up? A lapped car. Now, lapped cars at Mount Panorama are great at the bottom. They can ruin your race at the top, And we're about to latch on a David Hall. You know what? I reckon they're going to catch him just as they exit the mountain. They're just going to get away with it. Lucky, lucky. No, it's held up Waring. It's held him up. He's going to struggle on the exit of Forest Elbow. Just probably look at this. Because, oh, no way he's got away with it. Don't worry about it. He got away with it.
In fact, he's getting a little bit of a slipstream as we keep the cameras here
Yeah.
on the battle down the way. So, not missing anything. Still a lot that could happen amidst this group.
Callisto looks fast again here. See how close he was to the back of Harris through the S's there? He's just got to find a way by him. Remember, Callisto's up from where he started quite a bit. One of the most solid progresses in the field. +6 at the moment. Was +7.
I can tell you that Hall has now finally been lapped by our top 3. It's definitely causing a little bit of a headache for everybody trying to come through. Eric Smith lost a lot of time. He's the blue and green car, the bright blue that you see there now heading by. And he was right on top of Driscoll before. He's a whole 1.3 seconds back now. Poor Travis Warling is going to be behind Hall in the absolute worst place. Oh, did Haley lose a position to Dick Mueller?
Did, yeah. Haley lost a position to Dick Mueller, and this was a very interesting one because it was through Griffins, and it just looked like Haley just kind of gave it to him. So maybe he thinks that Dick Mueller has a better pace than him, but he's very squirrely at this point.
And Dick really sent it in. Watch this. He's lucky he didn't lose the spot right back. Goes in deep, a little bit off the line, and somehow finds the throttle.
Oh my goodness. Andrew Waring took way too much speed through Skyline that time around on the S's. He almost hit the inside wall going into the dipper. That was a scary moment for our leader.
But he didn't. He got away with it. His car was definitely sliding through the S's. He is very fortunate there. I'll agree with you there, Adam. Now, Steve Driscoll had closed up from him. He's just falling away. Driscoll's an interesting beat in this little group because he's definitely ready to pick up the pieces if these two tangle in front, and he's not far away that we can discount him once pit stops come into play. By the way, with the short fuel necessary, you can pit now and be on track to make it home.
Bit of a reverse strategy. So we also saw a position, or didn't see a position change between Bennett and Stevenson. The 53 overtakes for 8th spot back in the mid-pack. All right, here we go again. Christian Challoner onto the mountain straight. Doesn't look as close as we've seen a number of times.
Ooh, Driscoll almost lost the car
Yeah.
coming out of Hell Corner. That was very sketchy for him. He's losing massive amount of time to our leaders at this point.
We get a replay on that, potentially on board if we could see the hands of the number 51. Already starting to light up the rears. And he is not nearly close to being done with his stint, although he could pull a strategy that we heard there from Ryan.
Woohoo! Yeah, so that was him just getting on the gas, and then his right rear tire climbs up over that curb and loses traction, and that's where he was having that trouble. So fortunately he's recovered, but now he's in the grips of Eric Smith.
Ooh, let's head to P14, down to McGreevy. Jeff Schmeier, very close behind Brian. In fact, I wonder if Brian maybe got this spot through Hell Corner. Not going to be able to attack him.
Because McGreevy was ahead of Harris and Callisto. Now he's behind them both.
Yeah, so McGreevy actually got it a little bit too deep into Murray's on that last lap and lost those 2 positions. And so he's actually now in the grip of Jeff Schmeier, who's trying to recover himself. So McGreevy trying to cool down those tires, but it's so hard to do here on the mountain.
Do we have an early taker for the pit stop strategy? I see Espedy in the lane, and I'm checking. Oh, he's got big damage, and I think this happened. Oh, yeah, this happened on this lap when he came in, down into Forest Elbow. You were talking about the difficulty of that right-hander entering, Ryan, and that's what caught him out.
It's so underrated. It doesn't even have a name, but it's so tricky. because you're trying to brake and turn at the same time. Get it wrong, and you fire into the wall on the left. 3-time reigning champion of Supercars Championship got that wrong in practice on Friday for the 1000. There's a move up the inside for Callisto.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was Callisto. It looks like Harris missed a shift or something there. That was very interesting.
Maybe just spun the wheels up a little bit. I'm not sure, but yeah, he was just awful slow off the corner.
Might have lifted, because earlier on when Callisto passed him for the first time, Harris definitely lifted there.
And Mark Stevenson's been having some really weird moments. He just went sideways through Helk's corner, and he was also sideways coming out of the chase this lap as well. He just lost 8th position to Brian Bennett. So that's Brian up ahead of him. Mark Stevenson in that red and black machine, really struggling with this car at this point. The rear is just so hot for him.
Ryan, is this something where if you don't treat the car right over the course of the stint, the handling characteristics start to change on you? Is that maybe what's catching Stevenson out? Whoa, as it happens again.
The handling characteristics are going to change anyway as the tire grip falls off. You've got to make adjustments with your bars to counteract that. You can change the front and rear anti-roll bars in the car along with the brake bias. Now, with all these slides, it's also absolutely annihilated the surface temp on those rear tires, which is only going to continue to send him down the drain in terms of his grip. So he's dug a hole. He's trying to get out of it right now. It might be worth going for a short bit on the first stint here for him. Just get out of this little rut that he's in at the moment.
Looking a little bit smoother on the latter half of the mountain. Didn't see as many slides, so maybe he's got it under control, or at least backed it off a hair. All right, so the 53 with an ill-handling car. We'll watch and see if he decides to come in here soon. We're not missing anything up at the front of the field. Challoner's not been able to make an attempt on Waring since we last looked at them. It's been holding station at about a half a second, although Challoner setting fastest lap of the race just now.
Yeah, the trouble is, Joe, that he's just not super consistent, and that comes down to, like he said he was not super comfortable with the car. It's not one that he races that often, so with practice and with experience comes consistency, and that's the one thing that Christian can't find. He's got speed. Oh my goodness, Waring clips the outside grass heading into Griffin's Bend. That almost sends him too deep into the corner. He managed to recover, but that was very close.
Ooh. So the 37 finally getting something out of the 36? Is he getting enough mistakes that he can finally pounce? He's been waiting for it a long time. Oh, and Brian McGreevy was off at Murray's corner, loses a bunch of spots as well as accrues damage from the wall.
Yeah. Purple lap from Challoner, as we said, but Waring was only a tenth slower than him. It's not like that purple lap just absolutely obliterated what Waring's doing, so they're so closely matched out there, as there is McGreevy recovering from his mistake now all by himself on Mountain Straight. Back to the front. Another lap car you just saw flash by as well. They'll catch him soon. That's Austin Espedy.
By the way, I think the tires are seriously going off at this point. I saw Pfeiffer with a spin, Lynn Kinchlow had a problem, and now Jason Wallet as well. That is 3 or 4 cars within a single lap that have had offs or trouble, all of their own doing.
Yeah,
Yes, but we just saw the fastest lap of the race.
Here's the thing, though. Andrew Waring's front tires look like they're starting to fall off as well. He's locked them up a couple times over the top of the hill, especially going through Skyline and lining up for the dipper. He locked it up. He managed to get control of it again. But Christian Challoner, I think the brake bias is starting to tend a little bit forward naturally for these drivers, so they're going to have to back it off themselves for sure and adjust those bars like you said, Ryan. But if they're not keeping up with that, the car's just going to get worse and worse for them.
Oversteer on the exit for both drivers and a bit of the grass for Waring. Challoner's found a rejuvenation after being slightly off for just a couple of laps. Inside's open. Does he take it? Oh, he tried, but he couldn't get there.
Noticing the exact same things, that the cars are looking a little bit on edge here. It's up and over the curb. Waring somehow averts disaster and keeps out of the wall. Challenger could have something soon. The only thing I worry about here, Ryan, is he's got to be careful that he doesn't get caught up in whatever might take out Waring if he makes a major mistake.
I think Challenger's smart enough that he'll recognize if Waring's about to have a shunt, because generally you see it from behind when they've gone too deep into a corner, like in the skyline if Waring absolutely sends it, which he did. He's going to get away with it. He'll realize this. The thing with these cars is the grip goes away, but the lap times don't. This is why it's becoming so difficult.
They're clearly still pushing and finding something in them, but having a hell of a time handling it as they come out of Forest Elbow. We talked about that traffic. Espedy is being closed in hand over fist. Now you can see them up in front in the white and blue Commodore just in front of them. Not as great of a run down the Conrad from Challenger, so we won't get an opportunity here into the chase.
And this is one of the best battles on track as far as the two drivers being at equal pace. They're really tight together, and Andrew Waring, you can see that he's pushing for sure, and Christian Challenger is as well. They're not taking this easy. They're not looking at the lap chart at all. Christian wants to make this pass on track. He doesn't want to do it in the pits, and that much is evident now that they're 18 laps into the race.
Last time they both had a slip up off this corner, and it looked a lot smoother for both of them off of hell this time through.
Adjustments made.
They've both absolutely left Driscoll and Smith behind. 4.2 seconds now the gap from Waring to Driscoll. So he's stuck with him for the early phase of the race, but now starts to fall away. Smith continuing to stalk him. And then a pretty big gap back to 5th place, 5 seconds from 4th to 5th.
I remember earlier Warling got held up by some of that lap traffic, and I think that hurt him a lot. Smith, though, making up the ground that he lost from that. Oh, and Lionel Callisto is our latest victim of Murray's corner. Another one that just slides wide off into the tires.
Yeah, he has a little bit of damage on the left front, on the right front. Let's take a look at this replay, because this is something we're going to be seeing a lot today. So it'll be good to get a reference for it. Here it is coming into Murray's. He just locks up the front tires just a little bit going into the corner, a little bit of wheel hop, because remember that these cars do require blip downshifting. So he just gets a little bit wheel hop into the corner and slides off into that barrier there.
Ryan, you talk about the corner before Forest being one of the more unassuming. I feel like Murray's has always been one of the toughest corners to me. It looks like just a simple 90-degree corner, but I've had that same issue so many times where just for some reason, it's hard to nail.
Yeah, but the thing with Murray's is everyone knows it's tough to nail. The one before Forest Elbow, everyone's like, okay. Oh wait, it's really hard. Yeah, Murray's corner's developed a reputation for being treacherous and throwing up at those dramas, and just holding my breath as the leaders navigate that lapped traffic once again into Murray's corner. Ironically, up the inside goes Waring, and Kinetic car stays wide. That probably hurt Challenger more than anything, actually.
Yeah, Waring actually locked up the left front going into Murray's that time around. He had to put a little bit of boot into it to get the car to rotate. Fortunately, the supercars have plenty of extra horsepower left underneath that right foot to get you turned around if you need it. And it looks like Waring actually got a pretty decent launch off a hell corner, so he's going to maintain that gap to Challenger. Challenger will catch him by the time they get to Griffin's, but not close enough for an attempt up the inside. Jimbo Pfeiffer is the next car up the road for these guys as far as lap traffic, and he's 4.5 seconds up there.
32 cars on the racetrack, or 31 cars on the racetrack now, with one retirement so far due to issues with connectivity, I believe. Mark Herzog in the 57. So as we get further and further into this 81-lap race, lap traffic is going to continue to play a factor, especially as more drivers run into issues, which I think we can safely say is going to happen.
Yeah. Let's take a look, though, at third place. Driscoll and Smith will continue to be very close to one another, and about a similar distance we've seen between Waring and Challenger for much of this race. They head through Skyline, and the unorthodox car of Steve Driscoll, who's been retaining the podium for quite a while, is going to have to now deal with traffic because Espedy is just up the road. Head into Forest Elbow, trying to keep the car tucked into that inside wall and then get the throttle down off the corner, picking up speed. Great exit there from Driscoll. Puts Eric Smith at arm's length.
Yeah, and it looks like they're going to catch Austin around the same place they caught, around the same place the leaders caught Austin, which is going to be coming through the chase. So hopefully that shouldn't be that much of an issue for them to get by. Here we see Driscoll and Smith navigating the chase. Smith very loose, coming through the left-hander in the chase. That was a scary moment. He's able to recover, but Steve Driscoll and Eric Smith are going to catch Austin Espedy.
We got to take a look at our leaders because Challoner is once again showing himself in the mirrors of Waring. I'm starting to get the sense that Christian is regretting losing the lead at the start of this race. He has yet to be able to take it back from Andrew. Oh, he's got a good shot here. Andrew's going to force him around the outside one more time. The kinetic car has not been able to make this stick, but now he's not under threat like he was earlier in the race, and still nothing doing.
I'm not going to say that move's never going to work, but it's a rare moment when we do see it work in real life or in the sim. There's just too little grip out there. The crown on the road falls away, and you just lose any opportunity to keep turning that car in, and you end up just burning up your front tires trying to make that work.
Did you see how close to the wall that Waring got coming out of the cutting? He was just about a paper's width from brushing against it. So he's definitely hustling it. He's letting Christian push the pace here. And we heard Ryan say earlier that there will be problems. I just hope it isn't the 336 that suffers from it.
Or the 37.
True.
Because this is a great fight. They seem evenly matched, to be fair. There's parts on the track where Waring is pulling, and then the other parts where Challoner's fighting his pace. Unfortunately, his pace isn't quite good enough to be able to actually pull a move.
Yeah, it's so hard to find such a good fight like this. Oh yeah, you're right, Ron. Here we go.
Got a fantastic run. Lift off, duck left, late braking. Couldn't get there. The reason I said lift off into the king is because if you keep your foot flat, you're more likely to run into the back of the guy in front of you and turn them around. You cannot touch them as you're taking that ride at nearly 300 kilometers an hour because they will spin.
So far, they've been able to keep it clean enough as they both get a little bit of a slide out of Murray's. Challoner slightly off the apex, and that cost him just as he was looking like he could have something on the 336. Oh, this is good once again. I don't know. We've seen this story before, and so far it hasn't really produced anything for Christian.
The longer we go into this race, the more and more marbles are going to build up on the outside of Griffin's Bend, and the less and less likely it becomes as an actual overtaking opportunity. Not that it ever was one to begin with, on the outside, that is.
The approaching Wallet, you saw just a hint of him on screen there into the cutting. Hopefully they don't catch him here along the mountain. I think he should have enough pace that he can stay ahead until they head down the Conrod. But lap 21 now. We're getting close to that pit window.
Goodness, I mean, Christian's right there. Andrew is looking to be a little squirrely over the top of the hill here. They're both giving it a little bit more margin than we're used to through McPhillamy, but here we go through Skyline into the Dipper. It's going to be very stressful as they catch up to the back of Wallet. Is this going to hold up Waring unless he can find a way by as he goes through Forest Elbow? He's going to try the outside. Looks like Wallet's going to hold up, but this is actually going to hold off Challoner because he can't make it to the apex.
Way out in those marbles, yeah. And Challoner, unfortunately, loses a few tenths. So this will be telling if he can catch up pretty quickly, because you theorize that they seem close on pace, but now that Challoner's got a little bit of clear air on his nose, if he runs that down in a few corners, then I'd disagree on it and say that the 37 has it.
Challoner's strength is the braking zones. So the big braking zone of the chase, he pulls in.
Yeah, you're right. It's gone from 8 tenths to 4 tenths right there. So then My suggestion would be, and granted, take that with a grain of salt. I think Challoner should pit early. I think he should try and leapfrog Waring.
Well, Eric Smith took your advice. He's into the pits right now.
All right.
We're going to see the rest of the stock in the next 2 laps. Challoner might be able to go a lap extra if he wanted to. If he's been saving fuel here. Yeah, I think Waring's finding his time across the top of the mountain. That's why he's safe at the bottom.
Well, also, he's had that really good defense going into Griffin's, which has helped him hold off Christian. Christian may have the pace, like you said, on Waring, but he just knows exactly where to defend, and that's what's holding up Christian right now. Now, we know Waring has the qualifying pace, the single-lap pace over Christian Challoner, but it's that race pace that Challoner has just always had in every single round of this series that's made him so impressive here. But I think it's going to be a real hard ask for him to try and beat Waring unless he can get a good pit entry. But that's one thing we haven't talked about yet, Ryan. Pit entry here at Bathurst is a complete bear.
Yeah, plenty of issues there in international and European splits for this race over the last couple of days. There's a chicane on the entry to pit lane, grass either side of it, and a reasonably narrow gap between 2 tyre bundles as well. So easy to overshoot.
All right, another run down Conrad for Christian Challoner, but he's not close enough. Not only have we had Smith in this lap, Wade Hayes is in and out. It looks like Stevenson just finished his pit stop, and Jeff Schmeier is getting service currently. Challoner, who gets it down to about 0.2 of a second, runs out of straightaway and is potentially going to pit this time. Let's keep an eye on it. Let's see if he tries something.
One more lap.
Ooh, I think Waring thought about it. I think Waring thought about going in, but he saw Christian wasn't going to go.
Maybe trying to sell him a dummy a little bit, see if he could fake him out. What about Steve Driscoll? Is he going to respond? No, he does not respond to Eric Smith. He's going to stay out. Now, the downside to this strategy is becoming apparent if we go to Smith. He is right behind Ryan McGreevy with no place to go and is just losing gobs of time.
Yep.
It's not that, and this isn't even a lapped car, so McGreevy has absolutely no obligation to move over for him, and he does it in the majors anyway. Oh my goodness, McGreevy very deep there through Forrest's elbow. That's going to hold up Smith even more, though. Even though he's going to be able to make the pass here on Conrad, he would have had to wait for McGreevy to exit that corner, which would hold him up even more. So it'll be interesting to see his time this lap compared to our leaders.
The 68 for sure was heading straight for the concrete when he locked it up there through Forrest's elbow. Great job keeping that from becoming a disaster.
Smith's time this lap will be slow. He just come out of pit road.
Yeah, so we won't get a good gauge here. He still has more traffic to go by. Nick Kuhn is in front of him and still yet to pit, as well as Brian Barnes. Looking at our leaders, still half a second between Waring and Challoner. They continue to pull away from Driscoll. It's now up to 7 seconds.
All right, so I think we'll see at least one of these guys in this lap. I think Challoner is going to match whatever Waring does. Maybe two of them maybe both of them in this lap. Definitely expect someone in the field to go extra and stretch to 24.
Approaching that pit entry very quickly now. Down through the chicane of the chase. Challoner biding his time. You see them both go in. Here's the entry. One and okay. No. Not two.
There you go. There's the one that's staying out for 24 laps. Saving fuel he would have done through there. Through there, that stint.
So it'll be interesting to see who else in the field is able to go through to lap 24. Driscoll coming into the pits as well. He almost clipped the inside barrier there, but he's fine.
Warlane is in. Dick Mueller. Oh, we got one off. That is that's Jason Wallet, who is our first victim of the pit entry. Thankfully did not hit anything. Meanwhile, Eric Smith.
More traffic.
Yeah, oh goodness. This Kuhn,
yeah. His pit stop time wasn't bad, 43.9 seconds for a full tank. So he's done a full tank there, not a short fuel. but this is really affecting him now. These couple of outlaps. Wait for Driscoll to drop, and he'll probably emerge comfortably ahead of who was his rival before the window opened up.
Driscoll still stationary. All the UDOX guys all in together, apparently. A little bit of team tactics going on.
Gone past the short field window.
Okay, so Driscoll still waiting as Smith comes around the final corner. Still nothing for Steve. Now he's going.
That's closer than we thought, guys. Looks like Driscoll's gonna get Smith, but it's only by a second.
Yeah, he'll close up to him. He'll gain a little bit of time on this lap as well. The outlap for Driscoll as his tyres come up to temperature. I'm interested to keep an eye on what was Waring's pit stop time.
Warren's pit stop time was a 43.9 compared...
Scott Corbin is sitting in the middle of Griffin's Bend, sideways right now.
Could be an issue.
Could be. So what happened to Corbin here? Oh, he lost it all on his own.
I was just concerned that somebody was going to hit him, but it looks like everyone's been able to make it through.
Challenger in.
He was thankfully off the racing line, so it looked like he was able to avoid much in the way of issues. Challenger, as you mentioned, on the lane. Haley, Harris, Callisto, Kuhn, and McGreevy all made 24 laps. A few drivers in the mid-pack also stretching it. William Fletcher and Ryan Steele going one lap longer than many of our front runners.
So all eyes on Waring now to see how this overcut's going to work out for Challenger, whether it is going to work out. We have our eyes on the pit comparison right now between the two of them. Waring with only 43 seconds in the box, only 1:07 on pit lane, so that's a pretty decent time for him. Let's see how Challenger does it currently sitting there. I mean, this is the worst part, right? Sitting there knowing your competitor's racing around on track. There's nothing you can do but wait for the fuel to fill.
The clock ticks upwards and upwards. We're looking compared to a 43.9. So it's getting close to where he'll want to cut it off. How much fuel has Challenger been saving?
Their in-laps are identical.
But their out-laps, the undercut makes the difference. Waring with a gigantic gap over Challenger. It's got to be over a second. I say that's gigantic. It's normally wouldn't be around here, but with these two in their close pace, that's a lot of time.
So, in fact, it was 0.6 quicker on the in-lap for Waring over Challenger. So that lap by himself, Challenger wasn't able to go faster. And he's going to lose a little bit more ground on this out-lap as well. So that's an interesting one.
Somebody send Nick Kuhn to scrutineering after the race. He's on lap 25 out there right now. Wow. So the number 19, very precious with that right foot and saving it all stint long to take him a lap farther than anybody else has managed to, other than maybe potentially Ryan Steele, who I just see going past pit entry right now. So only two cars able to make it one lap farther than everybody else. By the way, Challenger has actually seemed to have lost a little bit of time on this lap as well. It's 1.5 seconds. So is that potentially maybe getting the tires up to temperature here?
That'd be my guess. I'd guess it'd be cold tires, Ryan.
Well, we'll try and suss that out as we let our last two cars come in for a pit stop. We're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with more to go here in round 13 of the majors. It's the Bathurst 500. Welcome back to Mount Panorama Circuit. We are just going through lap 27, on to lap 27 right now of an 81 lap race. It's the Bathurst 500, round 13 for the majors. Before we get to the racing, another reminder of our charity for this race is Mission Australia. We've got a link in the description below, or if you want to type it in, you can go to missionaustralia.com.au to see how you can help. Andrew Waring is our leader. He's been leading since the start of this race, even though he was in second when the green dropped, managed to snooker Christian Challenger. And Challenger's not been able to do anything to get by, whether it's passing on track or trying to use strategy. In fact, he's had to reel back in time after his strategy seemed to have lost him a little bit of that gap on track here. Adam?
Yeah, I mean, but the most mind-blowing thing is that Andrew Waring last lap set the fastest lap of the race at 2:06 flat. Christian Challenger comes in right behind him and sets a 2:05.5. That is an absolutely bonkers time to be doing on a fresh set of tires and full fuel as Andrew takes a little bit deep there once again through the S's, but once again, he makes it, so no criticism there. But Christian Challenger's race pace, especially on these fresh tires, he's maximizing these things. If he can get a good exit here through Forest Elbow, he might have another opportunity.
I mentioned the in-lap being 6/10 quicker for Andrew Waring. The out-lap was 3/10 quicker for Christian Challenger. Then, of course, first flying lap back on racetrack was a 2:06.0 for Waring, 2:05.5 for Challenger.
The stat I want to keep track of, just as an aside, after these first set of stops, 22 cars left on the lead lap out of 32 starters. We'll see how many are still left running on the lead lap in this series when it comes down to the checkers. Could we have a different leader here? No, but Christian Challenger is back where he's been for much of this race, threatening and pressurizing that 336.
Ryan, I'm just watching Christian go through Murray's, and I think he's losing a decent amount of time there, around a 10th, just going through that corner. He doesn't get a good exit onto the front straight. And it's a similar thing with Hell's corner. He just seems to carry too much speed through the corner. Is backing up Murray's a good idea, or does that put you in an opportunity to clip that inside curve too much?
You've got to be careful backing it up, yeah, because of that inside curve, which you cannot hit. So I don't know, it's all about keeping the momentum up through Murray's and carrying it into Hell. You've really got to be close. You've really got to be strong through there. Honestly, if you're not strong, there's not much you can do to fix up Murray's corner. It's a 90-degree left. There's only so much you can do when you can't touch that curve.
I will say that Waring has been touching a lot of curves in some dangerous ways, especially out of Griffin's. I've been noticing he lets it kind of bound over that curve and gets close to the outside wall. I'm a little afraid that that'll bite him eventually. So far it hasn't, so keep those fingers crossed as they come through the dipper. And Waring actually looking quite strong here along this portion of the circuit.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely looks strong over the top of the mountain, especially into Skyline. He carries the braking so deep into there. I just worry every single time he goes through. He locks up the front tires occasionally going into there, but he seems to be able to maintain that position. And Christian has a great run this time by. Let's see whether or not he makes a move here. It's his best opportunity. He's going to send it up the inside. He's got an overlap, but Waring's going to carry the speed through. A carbon copy of what we saw just about 15 minutes ago.
Wow, that's the closest we've seen him, though. especially in that portion of the circuit. He'll get a second bite down into Murray's corner. Going to try and take that apex away, clips the curb that we were talking about, and it costs him the speed that he needed. Challenger is on the aggressive now. Oh, and the car starts to squirm, getting on the power out of Hell's Corner. He picks up speed, but every single time, Waring's been covering him off up to Griffin's Bend. At some point, does he try and squeeze it up the inside? Because there's just a car's width there. Nope, going to do the outside again. And he'll have to retain second place. All this fighting is not losing them too much. Driscoll is about 8.5 seconds back from them, where that fight continues for the final spot on the podium. Smith staying within about half a second of the 51.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
definitely... Go ahead.
So, you remember during that pit stop phase there, Eric Smith pitted a lap before Driscoll, but got held up without lap traffic and still came out relatively close to Driscoll. He was closing up over the last stage of the first stint, so I reckon he's got a little bit more pace, but slightly unfortunate where he fed back out into traffic.
Yeah, it is unfortunate where he fed back out into traffic, and traffic is the name of the game. If you are going to pit early, that's part of what takes it out of you, especially if you have pace on the other drivers. Now, Christian Challenger lost out significantly over the top of the mountain this time around, just getting it a little bit crossed up as he went through the S's, and the dipper just couldn't quite get the braking down as much as he'd like. A little bit too much rotation through the dipper loses him about half a second there, so he's going to have to recover that. But like you said, that third place battle is a pretty decent one. Smith he doesn't seem to be able to close up to the back of Driscoll the same way that Christian Challenger is able to get to the back of Waring, as they're just now cutting deep into the chase.
We've had our first driver with a second stop. I don't think it's scheduled, though. Ryan Toma has been in and off the lane.
It is scheduled, Joe, because his first pit stop was for damage, so this is the farthest he could go. His first pit stop was for damage on about lap 5 or 6. So,
and it might interrupt our leaders because they're coming up behind him right now. So Andrew Waring suddenly spies a car exiting the pits right when he probably does not want it. Because, and Toma, great heads up here. Great heads up for the 48. Lifts and lets them through before they get to the mountain.
All right, I'm not sure they're going to be as lucky with the guys up ahead of them, because we have a good pack of 4 cars in the battle for 20th position. 3 cars tucked in right ahead of them, about 4 seconds up the road. So they might have to be careful when trying to pass these guys, depending on where they catch them.
I mean, honestly, Adam Halleck, Scott Corbin, Bob Salami, as you guys say, you call him, David Warner, William Fletcher, are all in the next 6 seconds up the road.
And if they start to get into a train of cars, it's even tougher than just overtaking one, naturally. So Fletcher, who they approach, you can see tiny little lockups for him ahead of them on the dipper down into Forest Elbow. Beltrami the Salami has pulled a bit of a gap back to Warner, thankfully, so maybe they'll get some time in between them.
So here's where Waring is starting to do some math. He's trying to figure out where he's going to be able to get by William Fletcher up ahead of him. This is what's going to start to stress him out. Challenger was much more conservative over the top of the mountain this time, I think because of how crossed up he got in the S's last time around. So Waring just trying to do the math right now and figure out where he's going to pass these guys. It looks like the mountain straight's going to be the best opportunity. But remember, they're battling for position, and there's no compulsory blue flag rule in the Majors series, so they don't have to move over for Waring. So if Fletcher thinks that he's got an opportunity on Warner, he might keep his foot to the floor down the mountain straight.
So we had some good behavior from Toma last time. What's Fletcher going to do? Does he see the battle coming up behind him? And will Warner do much of the same, since he's a little bit up the road from them? If not, they'll definitely be caught along. And yes, there's a big lift from Fletcher. Fletcher allows them through. Warner does not. And the opportunities will be extremely limited from here on to Forest Elbow.
I know in the driver's briefing they got briefed a little bit on what to do when passing over the top of the hill. And the answer was pretty much don't. Yeah, exactly. So this is what's going to stress Andrew Waring out, because he's going to have to make a move here because Warner's way too slow. He's going to get held up here. Christian Challoner hoping that this keeps happening. Oh boy. Oh, it's just so stressful. Oh my goodness. Oh man, Warner almost off track there. Whew.
The thing they got to be careful of is if those lapped cars who go wide out of McPhillamy, if they touch the grass, they could easily spin back across the track in front of the leaders. So double-edged sword there, trying to get by them. Thankfully, no drama there. Looks like Waring survived that one. Now only, let's see, we're 50 laps to go of dealing with that lap traffic.
And the amazing thing is that the attrition is pretty much zero on this race so far. The only person we've lost is Mark Herzog, and that was due to connection issues. Everybody else is still running, only a good 2 or 3 of them due to needing the spare car. So it's amazing to see how many people are still going around here with how complex and difficult this track and car combination is.
Adam, the next driver that wrecks out has you to blame for that one. You know
Absolutely.
that, right? All right. So they're coming up to the Salami. Bob's a veteran in this series, has been racing in the majors almost since the beginning. In fact, I think it is since the beginning. And yep, he sees it coming from a long ways away. It just gives a little bit of a lift. Makes a nice, easy pass for both our drivers.
There's some damage on Warren's car, actually. I never noticed that before. Right rear. It's not on the back of the car. It's on the quarter panel between the fender and between the back and the tire, I think.
Right, yeah, I can see a little bit of that as well. It's very slight, and hopefully it's not affecting him that much. He does clip the outside wall just a little bit there as he goes through what is sometimes called quarry. We're going to go aboard Christian and see whether or not we can see what's going on.
Doubt it.
Yeah, it's very, very subtle. 'Tis but to scratch, as they say, so he must have just maybe sideswiped one of the concrete barriers at some point.
It's just pushed in the rear quarter fender, which is a bit of damage that's hidden by the actual back of the car, so Challoner can't see it. Alright, here we go. We're catching Corbin and Hallett. Corbin in a good place, actually.
I was going to say, Corbin will have a good opportunity to let them through if he so desires.
He has to so desire, so
I think he's lifting. Yeah, it looks like he's lifting a little bit. Oh, maybe not. He's going to hold him up.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Uh-oh. This is not good. Can he get it woed up in time? Nicely done by Pat Corbin to avoid disaster. Just didn't panic. He's going to lose a spot out of it, but that's probably the least of his worries. Beltrami is going to grab 19th.
I mean,
Actually, no, that wasn't 14th. Excuse me.
When you see someone go off into the grass like that, your heart goes in your throat, because there are so many times in real life and in sim racing where we've seen someone, or we've seen the leader turn in to the chase and immediately get blindsided by the car off in the grass. That is often one of the scariest moments that you can have as a driver, when you are the car off in the grass, spearing towards another driver, knowing that there's nothing you can do.
Well, Earthskull's not getting a good time as we need to watch our leaders, because Stevenson was sort of in between himself and Smith, but now Smith is able to get through. But look at this. That's Fletcher and Warner up ahead of him, along with Toma, all cars that need to be lapped, and they're on the mountain portion. Fletcher lets these two through. Can't do too much more of that up here.
I think
they're doing their best, right?
By letting him go. Did he let Stevenson go by accident as well?
Yeah, I think he did.
Go Driscoll, Warner. Warner again being caught in the same spot the leaders caught him. Does he run wide at McPhillamy? This time he thinks that's probably not the best option. Look at Driscoll. He wants to go through, but he can't do it. And Eric Smith goes at the back of him. All of them make contact. They get away with it.
How did they not wreck there? great job by all involved. So Warner is still need to be lapped, but Driscoll and Smith live to fight another day at least. Really hope he pulls off to the side.
Oh, as much as I love this battle, we have to look at the lead because Christian Challoner has the best run he's had on Andrew Waring all race. He's going to look to the inside as they take the right-hander for the... Oh, my goodness, through the chase. And Waring into the grass on the inside just a little bit there. Christian Challoner still can't get it done. Holy
Phenomenal
cow.
defense. Phenomenal defense from Waring. I don't know how he got that car slowed up, but he did, and that's helped him retain the lead. Challoner's got to be asking, what do I have to do to make the pass? And in fact, he is trying to get on the power too much out of Murray's.
Side by side for third, defending the inside as Driscoll looking for the crossover is Eric Smith. He's going to get the momentum as well and carry it down Mountain Straight. Here we go. Inside line for Smith looking for third place for the first time today. Into Held's corner, he slides slightly wide, and Driscoll carries the speed back by and retains the spot.
It's just so hard to pass around here.
It really is.
Hard to pass and unorthodox, it seems.
While Christian, still working on Waring, forced him on an odd line into Great Bend.
Smith got the job done.
Look at the replay off that one. How in the world did he do this?
Late braking into Griffin's Bend. We're going to see it here as it plays out coming through Hell's Corner. You're going to see it. He gets a great run. He tucks in right behind him, gets a fantastic run, and then just lines up on the inside for Griffin's. He doesn't even have an overlap. He just outbrakes him into the corner.
This is gutsy stuff. Over the jump. A little bit of a late move, but nothing untoward, and he's given space at the apex. Wow. Tip your hat to the 32 on that one. Are we going to get another chance for Christian Challoner, by the way? Yep. Closing in quick. Coming down Conrad. Once again, going to have the outside of the main apex here. Oh, way too far off this time for Waring. Can't get the braking where he wants. They come together. Christian goes around. Waring is slowing.
They've got 10 seconds in hand.
Oh, heartbreaking right there for Christian Challoner. That was just a little bit of netcode that cost him off. Looks like Waring's going to slow up and wait for him. This is going to be a good move from Waring as Adam Halleck blows Murray's corner right in front of Waring. They're going to get going once again, but...
Driscoll are right there with him now as well.
Yeah. Smith is loving this. Probably not sure what exactly happened, but he sees Christian Challoner ahead of him now. Challoner just behind Halleck, who's a lapped car, splitting himself and the leader, Andrew Waring. Waring's not handed it back yet, but he's given the time back at least.
I think just a bit apprehensive about all the laps cars around them at the moment.
Shades of Spa for Christian Challoner right there.
Absolutely. Well, he definitely doesn't want to hand it over here along the mountain.
He might not hand it over. He might have just brought Christian back into the battle. We'll see how he handles this. But he definitely, like you said, he can't really do it over the mountain.
He's got a point to make for staying ahead of him because the move wasn't complete. But at the same time, it might have been complete if he hadn't touched him. Yeah, it's a tough one. Honestly, I'd love to see this just get called as a play on. You're both back where you started in the battle.
Absolutely. I feel like this is absolutely fair. What he did is he's taken a lot of curb yet again. Behind them, the lap traffic is massively holding up Eric Smith, so he's not able to take advantage of all the ground that he had gained through their incident.
Steve Driscoll, meanwhile.
Driscoll's got a side-by-side battle in front of him between Halleck and Toma. That's for position. Oh! Together.
Goodness gracious, that was almost huge. It's only one car, but it would have been more.
That was the
and Christian Challoner's got the job done. Christian Challoner has got the job done on Andrew Waring.
And I think Waring let that one happen.
He did.
He had a little bit of a lift. It was basically a copy paste, and I think Warren, because of what happened last time, decided you deserve that one. So as they come out of the final corner, Challenger finally back up into the lead for the first time since the start of the race. I'm seeing Bradley Haley with a smoking engine. Something happened to the 9.
This was a long time ago. This was coming through what is called quarry. He ends up clipping the inside wall and then bouncing off the left side. So that's...
As an Australian, a die-hard fan of Bathurst, I just want to say, what the hell is quarry? Apparently it's this.
Inside, then the outside.
Well, my response to that, Ryan, is that Australians don't need to name it because they make it through there every time, but apparently everyone else needs to have a name for it.
That is a very heavy trouble spot in real life as well.
So, going back to our new leader, Christian's not pulled a big gap over Warren yet. So, I give credence to Ryan, who said they were evenly matched on pace, and that seems to be true, because he would have pulled away, I think, by this point.
The thing for Warren is, if my other theory holds true that he's faster across the top, he's going to blitz him down the bottom. He's going to exit for us elbow, right on his back bumper. Doesn't matter how quick, how slow he is down the bottom, he's going to get the slipstream.
He's got it here, but does he make an attempt? As they start to pick up speed, he reels him in, down to 2 car lengths, down to 1 car length. I don't think he's got enough.
Just dabbed the brakes there to get away with that.
Oh, we got a change between Espedy and Barnes. This is for 13th spot. Could it be another spot down? Yeah, Bradley Haley, who's back out with his spare car, is able to get through too. And Brian Barnes suddenly demoted more than he wanted.
Remember that spin for Stevenson after Driscoll just drifted into him, entering Conrad straight. They were side by side again, and they almost crashed again, and Stevenson lost more time.
And let's see, yeah, Stevenson's been in for 2 stops, so I believe he's taken his spare car.
He has.
Well.
Sorry, no, it was Adam Halleck that was touched at Conrad, not Stevenson.
Ah, you're correct.
But Bradley Haley
not taking his spare car. Sorry, go ahead.
But Bradley Haley with that damaged engine, that's why he came into pit lane, and that's why we see him in that battle right now. He took his spare car and is now out there battling for that 14th position.
I don't believe, let me see, did he take service? I guess it was, yeah, short service, so maybe he took that as his short stop. I was going to say, Haley did not lose as many positions as I would have expected if he took a standard pit stop. And I think, would he still be good to make it to the end on the same amount of stops as everybody else here?
Yeah, I believe so. If he did his short stop that time around, his 14-second stop, plus the service for the damage, I think that he could definitely make it.
For that end, a short stop will be 30. If you take 14, you might be in strife.
Austin Espedy in the pits once again. Remember, he had trouble at the beginning of the race, so he's once again taking to the pits to break out of that battle that he was having with Bradley Haley and Brian Barnes. So he's going to get his pit service done off strategy.
We can give a quick shout to our hard chargers so far in this race. I believe, and my math could be wrong on this, that Lionel Callisto has earned that one, up 10 positions from 20th up to P10, of course. So the number 2 car is doing quite well at this track.
Been talking about him a fair bit today. The Route 66 racing driver. Done a good job being in amongst the action. Made some good overtakes as well. I think I said earlier on, he was 21 seconds away from the lead. Because he started back there in 20th, and he was definitely on for a top 10. Well, there he is.
And he's also only 15 seconds away from the lead at this point, so his average lap times are doing pretty good.
I think that's Liam Quinn at ninth. He's
what, mate?
Minute 17 behind Challenger right now.
Oh, sorry, I read the wrong column on my timing screen. That's my bad.
He's fast. He's not quite that fast. Even still, like I mentioned before, Kalisto is a former champion in this series, which is why we're seeing him do so well in this car. He's been here a number of times in this combination.
I've just been keeping my eye on the leaders, trying to analyse whether the gap's going in and out. On the last lap, it opened up at the top, but down the bottom, coming down the hill, Waring found a bit of time. Challenger then made a mistake exiting the chase. Getting back to McPhilmy, the gap's opened up again. We'll see if by the time they get to the bottom, it's closed in.
Ooh.
Yep, it's already closing.
Yeah, and Waring was ultra aggressive down through the S's there.
He's really taking a lot of curb there as they come up to Brett Trocine, who they're going to have to pass on. Should be able to do so pretty cleanly on Conrad. So Trocine pulls over to the left and lets them go by. If you're wondering where the battle for third ended up going, Driscoll got held up significantly at the top of the mountain, and he's now 5 seconds behind Eric Smith.
That's putting it lightly.
Well, that was that whole incident that we saw with Andrew
that's right.
Warren.
Yeah.
So he got held up a lot there. So he has a lot of ground to make up. Eric Smith is only 1.8 seconds out of this battle, so he's definitely back in it for this fight. If anything should happen to these guys, if they get held up by any more traffic.
He's recovered well from what was a reasonably sluggish launch from the line, which dropped him back to 6th straight away.
I'm sure he'd be happy with the podium at this point, considering he started outside of those top 3 spots. Whoop! That's not going to do it, though. Smith loses a little bit coming off of Hell Corner and has to catch the car.
That gap's definitely closer than it was at the top of the hill, between the top 2.
Yeah, it's down to 0.4 of a second now.
And they've got David
look
Hall.
at this.
Oh boy.
Oh, Hall's heads up though. He pulls over.
You know, these lap cars have been excellent, to be honest. Like, with the exception of that one battle that was happening, which you can't really fault the drivers for having an on-track battle and wanting to solve it between the 2 drivers. The lap traffic has been doing a great job of trying their best to stay out of the way of the lead lap drivers. It's so hard to do around here. I have been both a lead lap driver and a lap driver, and it's just such a challenge for both sides of the coin to try and make things work at the top, especially at the top of the mountain.
Still hovering at about half a second. I do see Halleck into the pits right now, so he's coming in to get some of that damage repaired, I assume. Down into Forest Elbow. I'm seeing a lot of marbles around the outside, and that's a slip up.
Actually hit the fence in that left-hander before the right-hander that precedes Forest Elbow. That is where we saw a gigantic crash in 2015 in practice, maybe qualifying. In real life, he's so fortunate to get away with that.
Coming around, complete another lap. Yeah, both of them are just giving it everything they've got. And I said it at the top of the broadcast that there is nothing on the line for these drivers anymore in the Drivers' Championship other than the pride of taking victories. And for Christian Challenger, that's been numerous times this season. He's got 9 on the board.
It's just impressive to see these 2 guys so close together after what is going to be 40 laps here as soon as they make it over the hill one more time. I mean, this is going to be... We're closing in on halfway in this race, and these guys are still separated in less than a second. And really, aside from pit stops, they have not been they haven't been further apart even with the pit stops than 1.5 seconds over the course of this entire race. Yeah, Joe, I saw that too. Waring getting very loose coming off of Griffin's men, hitting that outside wall again.
I wonder if that's where he, one of the cases where he got that damage that we were spying earlier. When he gets this close to the wall, just brushes things and scrapes a little bit of the paint off. So we're right on board with the Canadian right now. What's that?
He's just narrowing up the car, making it faster.
We're just about halfway through the race now. What I can't fathom is we've discussed a little bit about the mental fatigue that comes with a race this long. As a small lockup. There's some of it right there for Christian Challenger. But imagine being in this hard of a fight for this long at a track like this. Christian Challenger and Andrew Waring. No wonder we've seen at least one or two little mistakes from them, because, God, they've been just thrashing these things and having to deal with one another at the same time.
We're going to actually jump back to a look for a P11. Jeff Schmeier is trying to hold off Samuel Harris. Jeff has fallen off of Lionel Callisto by 4 seconds at this point. Sam was actually catching Lionel before Lionel made the pass on Jeff Schmeier. So Sam Harris has been kind of trapped here behind Jeff for a little bit. He tries to take the inside line there through the cutting. Can't quite do it there. You can't get much more inside than the wall. So he ends up clipping it there. But Sam Harris trying to get this pass done. But like we said before, it's so hard to pass around here, but they're taking a lot of break there as they go through Sullivan.
Harris been on a run upwards from 15th now to 12th, so his race pace is good as they come down through the S's and into the Dipper. A little bit more tucked into that apex than Schmeier was. Dog Bear car starting to feel the pressure. Oh, maybe too much as he locks it up, coming around the apex of Forest Elbow. This is going to be the best opportunity for Harris as he'll pull the slipstream. Holding the right side. Is Schmeier going to let him by? Now he drifts off to the left. And the much better top end for Sam Harris makes it an easy run up into P11.
Gotta say, when you take that right-hander down into the chase, it is absolutely terrifying when you're offline there. So Sam Harris, I mean, you end up drifting because it drops down there. Oh, look at this. That's going to be Jeff Schmeier into the pit lane. So we'll keep our eyes on that. He last pitted 18 laps ago.
Yeah, that's plenty in the window here. Those who are taking the standard strategy have about 5 more laps before we should see them in.
Hey, quick update on Eric Smith. After doing his fastest lap of the race, he followed it up with 2 pretty poor laps. A 2:08.0, which must have been a mistake, and then a 2:07.0, which must have also been littered with mistakes. And so he's fallen to 5, make that 6 seconds away. So this lap is not great as well. So it seems like Eric is now starting to struggle a little bit in his Apex car. Still comfortably ahead of Steve Driscoll, though. For comparison, Challenger and Waring are doing low 2:06s.
2:07.1, yeah. It seems like the car has gone away from the V Apex driver. He's not got to worry from behind. Driscoll, who has gained some of that time on him, is still about 4.2 seconds back. So no reason to sweat for the number 32, as long as he can keep the pace up. Waring making Christian Challenger keep that pace up. Still within that half a second. And now they've got Jason Wallet in front of them, along with Brian McGreevy.
Wallet and McGreevy have been together through a lot of this season. This time, Wallet's a couple laps down from McGreevy due to the damage that he took earlier on. But Christian's going to have to find a way around him over the top of the mountain because Wallet is significantly off pace compared to him. Otherwise, he might be under threat from Waring at the bottom of the hill.
Here we go.
Yeah, and Wallet has... Well, he could have maybe got off there. Oh! He was a little bit too polite.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. No.
Escape out. Hit the tow button. Jason, he's going to try and get it going. He smashes it into the wall again. Now he's very blind.
Walling.
There we go. He's gone.
Walling will never know how close he was to disaster there as he came through the S's.
Report that Wade Hayes has come in from the 6th position for his next pit stop, a regularly scheduled pit stop. So is Wayne Hutchison and Jimbo Pfeiffer from 24th and 25th. So regularly scheduled pit stops starting now.
I kind of wondered if we'd see some drivers trying this strategy. This would split it up pretty evenly, going 20 laps at a time to get through the 81 laps, as our leaders still being held up a little bit That was McGreevy, who's finally pulled off to the side and allowed his unorthodox teammate to go through.
Like you said, Joe, 21 laps at a time seems to be the way that these drivers are going who are pitting now. Last they pitted was lap 21, so that's exactly what they're doing.
Up the mountain straight. Orleans not giving this one up. Amazing that we're past halfway at this point, and we have not seen an edge pull out for either of these drivers. They have never been farther than 1.8 seconds apart, other than, of course, them pitting on different laps. That is just stunning.
Two different drivers, two different teams, two different models, and make a car. Both of them just tackling this mountain with serious aggressiveness as they go once again over the top. Oh, man. This circuit is so much fun to drive. This car, also so much fun to drive. It's a handful, don't get me wrong, but it's a handful in one of the best ways. It just feels so nice when you get it right. It just feels so fantastic, and especially around Bathurst, there's no better circuit than what you see the car on in Bathurst.
Of course, this car is only going to be around for another year in top flight competition. That was tight. Had to really wind on the lock, got it all wrong, and almost understeered into the fence. That gives Chandler a free kick. This car only going to be in competition at the top flight of Australian Motorsport for another year before the Chevrolet Camaro takes over from the Holden ZB Commodore. The Mustang will stick around, but it will look a little bit different. It'll be re-profiled and re-homologated.
Recovering.
Wow, go ahead.
The recovering Bradley Haley is making a pass on Sam Harris. Sam's actually going to let him go here. So a little bit of a surprise, but Haley's on a very different strategy from Sam Harris. Sam Harris last pitted 18 laps ago versus Bradley Haley, who's in the middle of his stint. He has 7 laps on those tires.
Something we haven't really mentioned, although just kind of alluded to just by the nature of this. This is an endurance race. Drivers do need to treat it as such. They've been almost going flat out as Wade Hayes overtakes Nick Kuhn on his fresher tires. So that was an easy run for the 33.
Yeah, he's just got those tires up to temperature. This is his second lap on them. Nick Kuhn, on the other hand, once again, one of those drivers on 17-lap-old tires. So just a difference in strategy leading to this pass on track.
Probably feels very good for Wade Hayes now that he's got a little bit better grip. We've already seen how treacherous the machines get at the end of a stint, and everything goes away. In fact, why don't we take a look at that grip right now, which has that gone down? Actually, yeah, it's gone down significantly, 110 degrees Fahrenheit.
We're down to 43 Celsius, so these drivers are feeling a little bit more grip there at the top of the mountain, and especially at the bottom when they're trying to do those left 90s, especially when you head across. Especially, I think the biggest place where you really feel the grip, at least when I've driven these cars around this circuit, is Murray's Corner and Hell Corner. And that's where you definitely know whether or not you've got some extra grip. At other places, the cutting, and they're probably just feeling just a little bit more comfortable now. But it is going to tighten the car up a little bit, having these extra degrees to play with as far as the temperature is concerned.
Midst of the Australian spring out here in October, set both in the virtual world and, of course, in real life as we race towards the end of 2020. Nobody in this group going to be ducking into the pit lane this time, it seems. Except maybe Eric Smith. Oh, Eric Smith is going to take an early call.
Yeah, Eric Smith, that is early for him for sure. That being said, he was one of the drivers to put it in on lap 21, so he's actually extended this stint compared to some of the other drivers who pitted on lap 21. So earlier than our leaders, but a little bit later than we would have predicted for his previous pit stop. So Eric Smith in for regular service.
More of the lap cars pulling out of the way of our leaders. That was Nick Kuhn, who we were watching give up a position before. I want to know if we're going to see him go all the way, let's see, it would have been till lap 50 this time if he stretches it to 25 laps.
It's interesting to note that Challoner, remember how he pulled that gap when Waring understeered at Forest Elbow? Well, the gap doesn't exist anymore. So we're seeing from Waring exactly what Challoner did in the first stint and a half.
It'd be lap 49 if you were to do 25 laps for Christian Challoner, because he pitted at the end of lap 24.
I was referring to Nick Kuhn on that one.
Oh, Nick Kuhn actually be if he were to go as far as it would be lap 50.
Yeah, because he went a lap later than everybody else out there on track, so I was curious if he's going to continue to try and stretch that out. So we continue to watch the top two down towards the chase. Now that they've had Eric Smith pit, Driscoll is a whole 11 seconds behind, so there is absolutely nobody near the number 37 and the number 336. Neither one decides to come in this time by. Both are going to stay out, but here's Warren. You were talking about this, Ryan. Look at how close he gets.
Now, if Waring is going to pit on the same cycle as he did before, which is at the end of lap 23, that would be the end of this lap that he would come in. But he's been sitting behind Christian for a decent amount of this stint, so it's possible that he might have saved enough fuel to go that extra lap that Christian did last time. It'll be interesting to see whether Christian has to come in this lap because he's been leading as much, but with the traffic over the top of the mountain, he might have been able to save enough to save that extra lap as well. Things are very different this stint around for these drivers.
Comes more lap traffic. Wade Hayes, the latest one, in 13th that they're now getting ready to lap. Incredible pace from the kinetic driver and the unorthodox driver. Ooh, this might be a bad spot for Christian, though. He's running up to the back of that 33 quite quickly.
It looks like they're going to catch him in the downhill. If they're lucky, Wade is pretty good through here, but it looks like he takes a lot more break than Christian. Boy, this could be a little stressful. They might catch him going into Forest Elbow. No, they should catch him on the exit.
Yeah, the timing's going to be just right. This is lucky for Christian Challoner, who, in fact, almost looks like he backs it up a little bit to get himself a better launch, but it may have backfired because here's Waring with the best slipstream we've seen him have on the Conrod since he got overtaken. Does he challenge him or does he wait? He's going to challenge him up side by side. He'll be on the outside of the left-hander apex as they break for the chase. Challoner holds him back, looking for the over-under. Waring tries to come back at him. Once again, defensive move from Christian Challoner. Oh, but he opens the door, and Waring looks but decides to not go for it.
And not quite time yet to make that move, I don't think, for Andrew Waring. Christian Challoner doing a good job to hold off that move there, but that was all precipitated by Wade Hayes, who's now tucked in right behind them. As Waring slides a little bit through Hell's Corner, going to lose a little bit of time there, but Steve Driscoll into the pits from third.
So let's stay on this battle, but I'm keeping an eye on the timing screen to see if Driscoll gets jumped by Smith or if he can gain time. Meanwhile, here comes Waring. The roles have been reversed. This is exactly the spot Challoner has been put in numerous times, and he's giving Waring a taste of his own medicine.
They're both going that extra lap longer here, so both of them able to save enough fuel to make this extra lap work. Hopefully that none of them missed the realization that they were supposed to go into the pits, and because they were battling, but I guess we'll find out on the top of the hill here.
I can't imagine that Christian, he's pretty savvy. I don't think he'd be missing a pit stop.
Challoner pitted 24, so he'll be safe. Waring pitted 23, but he's in the position Challoner was in when he was able to go 24. That's a mistake from Challoner. Almost missed the S's.
A rare mistake from Challoner as well. So is he going to be threatened? By the way, Smith just went by Driscoll, and it looks like it is about where they entered. So the battle for the lead is on. Warren gets another bite of the apple, and there's no traffic with them this time. This is all down to these two.
It's going to be close here. Andrew Waring trying to look for an opportunity, but he's actually going to stay behind. What's his plan here as he goes through the chase?
That means they're pitting this lap. They don't want to be side by side. Going to try and nail his pit entry.
Good call.
And they both go in, so no shenanigans this time. A lot of other drivers also in the pits the lap earlier than them.
Ryan, I think you saw the same thing I did. Andrew Waring was on it coming into the pit lane, trying to get as much time as he could out of Christian Challoner.
Remember that when at the very start I said if you save even a tenth of a second, it can make the difference. Well, if Waring was able to save a tenth of a second worth of fuel, he could jump Challoner. He should have saved fuel regardless, based on being behind him. But I think that enabled him to go the lap extra he did. Because that was 24 laps in for him, 23 for Challoner.
Both of them waiting on service at this time. It was pretty close on them going up on the jacks.
Also, wait and see if anyone does a 30-second stop. Nope, they're both going to go for a short final stop.
At least that's how it looks right now.
That's good for us because that means we get to keep watching this battle happen.
Wow, Challoner, good job.
Wow, 2 seconds, about 1.2 seconds actually, quicker than Waring in his box. Some of that is the iRacing randomness potentially.
Waring was slow, really. Because we've seen all the stuff into 43 seconds. This was 45 for some reason.
Yeah, hard to tell at this point without talking to them if that was extra fuel or if that was down to iRacing's small bit of randomness that can separate them. Jumping back down just on the lead lap is for 18th, Mark Stevenson and Brian Barnes, who have, let's see, well, it looks like Stevenson still needs to take a stop, but Barnes is freshly out. Bad news for Stevenson, of course. Doesn't want to fight him that much, I imagine, but with Barnes getting those tires up to temperature, he's going to be all over him soon.
He's going to have to be careful to keep himself on track here, just to try and maintain as much position as he can. Carry as much speed as he can without putting up too much of a fight, because a fight's just going to hold both of them up and lose them time.
Stevenson not losing out. He's pulled it to about 9/10 of a second over the number 4. Popsicle Man maybe still trying to get those tires up to temperature. That looked good down through the chase, though. He gained about 3/10 back alone.
Yeah, Brian Barnes very good through Murray's as well, so Stevenson looking, yeah, I mean, it's all about that, getting those tires up to temperature, and it takes a good 2-3 laps for these cars to do so. Stevenson's still struggling just a little bit. He's not like losing tons of time to Brian Barnes, but Brian's definitely going to get him as soon as he gets those tires up to temperature. That being said, the lead of the race has gapped quite a bit. Andrew Waring now 3 seconds behind Challoner. On those fresh tires, Challoner is in a league of his own right now.
And he just took Hell Corner very, very poorly, locked it up into there. I wonder if Waring's overdriving the car.
I mean, it's also possible that Waring just hasn't reset his stuff from when he came into the lane as well.
Going to see the lockup here down into Hell Corner. Just a long lockup. Oh, and Andy clobbers the curb, that inside curb of Murray's. Here's where he makes another mistake.
Something's wrong, for sure. I mean, he's continuing to lose time, and we know how fast he is going over the top of the hill. So, something's not right in that machine for him. I'm not sure what it is, and maybe we'll be able to find out at the end of the race. But if Waring continues to lose time as he is, he's not going to have a chance of catching Christian.
His last lap was 1.6 seconds slower than Challoner's, which was the same as both their first out laps after the first stop. Waring, though, yeah, 1.6 seconds off it.
Only waiting for a few more drivers to come in. Nick Kuhn, Sam Harris just ducked in for his second bit of service, and Ryan Steele.
And actually, I have an update on Sam Harris. Sam actually made contact with the outside wall coming. He overshot Murray's and locked up the front tires, ended up hitting the outside barrier pretty hard, so he's in for service and damage repair as well.
It looks like Waring has somewhat equalized the drop-off.
Yeah, it stayed at 3.3 this time. So this lap for Challoner is a 2:05. Oh, well, that's yeah, I guess that's their out lap. Or no, a 2:05.8 for Challoner and a 2:06.1. Still mildly slower for Andrew Waring, but not dire.
Because the damage done is the question. I mean, we know how fast both of them are. If Christian doesn't make any mistakes, I mean, it's going to come down to traffic to help Waring catch back up, because we've seen how close they both are on pace.
I was just going to say, I think traffic will be the determining factor on that one, and that's a roll of the dice. You just don't know what you're going to get.
Challoner's about to get traffic. Samuel Harris up in front of him.
The previously damaged Samuel Harris, so he's going to have to pass him at the top of the mountain, or hope that Sam Harris pulls over in a place that he could predict. Remember last season where we had lap cars deciding that they were just going to kind of stop on the outside of some corners and caught our leaders out by surprise. So Christian knocking on wood that doesn't happen again, and it almost does. This is going to be close. Sam bails out of it. Good driving from that one.
I think that was intentional. I think he knew that he could just cut the course there and slow up quite a bit.
Waring is the one being held up.
Yeah.
In fact, he just drilled the back of Jason Wallet.
Oof. So that'll probably lose him a little bit of time. By the way, Nick Kuhn finally in on lap 50, as we expected. So the number 19 running the long game here today. With that being our last stop, we're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll be back with the latter half here of the Bathurst 500, round 13 in the majors. Welcome back to Mount Panorama Circuit. Christian Challenger leads the way here, but Austin Espedy is leading Lionel Callisto in this battle on screen for 13th position. A little bit of side-by-side action through the first quarter as Espedy misses the apex, coming through Griffin's Bend, allowing Callisto to get close once again.
Yeah, just a little deep through Griffin's, ended up blocking up the inside front tire. Does it once again as they go through the cutting, so looks like he's got a little bit of a brake bias problem, possibly just picking up that inside front tire through most of these corners. Almost clips the inside of that corner there, so as they head towards the parks, he's got a little bit of work to do to get that car underneath him again.
Head back downhill now as they approach. Oh, that was way too much curb for Callisto. First the inside and then clobbered the outside through McPhillamy Park, and another mistake from Espedy as well. Both of them hustling these things to the outer limits.
Thing is, just up the road is...
Oh!
Jeff...
Go ahead.
Just up the road is Jeff, Jeff Schmeier and Ryan Sommer. They're not that far away from them. They're all lapping roughly the same pace. Callisto's the fastest, and I mean, how did he end up back in 14th, sorry? Because he was 10th, wasn't he? Quite comfortably at the time.
Can we get an onboard replay of Callisto with that incident? He actually hit the back of Espedy coming through Forest Elbow there. I think he got away without any damage because I didn't see anything on the nose of the car afterwards. It's almost like both of them made a mistake into the corner. They both went wide.
Yeah, it sure looked like they both went wide and then ended up, Austin just couldn't get it, Lionel just couldn't get it slowed up, unfortunately. So, once again, the battle resumes.
Still going to get the slipstream up mountain straight. These two continue to fight. One thing that we haven't touched on since the break is that P3 is back on. Eric Smith, despite being well ahead of Driscoll for a while, Steve in the 51 has reeled him in to within 0.5 of a second.
Yeah, this battle definitely has closed up recently, and that's just because Driscoll's pace tends to be about 2 to 3 tenths faster than Smith's. But once again, when he gets tucked up right in behind Eric Smith, he can't get the past him. Same thing that the same trouble that Smith had on Driscoll earlier.
See him trying to run him down up the hill, and just no such luck for this time through. Those are our two closest battles currently. The battle for the lead, if you were watching, went away and have just come back as a lockup into the cutting there for Smith. Shows a bit of weakness for him. If you were watching earlier and just came back, Challenger is 5 seconds ahead of Waring after the last pit stops and has shown no sign of giving that away.
Look at this battle right in front of the race leader.
This is Wayne
Hutchison and Pfeiffer.
Yeah, they're just tucked in right in front of each other, and this is actually really bad for Christian because he's actually getting held up by this. Pfeiffer's going to move over to the right side and try and let Christian go, but he's got to be kicking himself a little bit. He's got to say, "Go, Christian! Come on, man! I've got a guy up ahead of me. I want to battle him, please."
He's going to at least be able to reel him back in as he pulls the toe off of our current leader. But it doesn't look like the next lap car has any interest of letting him through. Oh, he's going to have to here. This is going to be a good opportunity. Oh, way too polite there. Way too polite.
Yeah, it just moves over and lets Jimbo through as well, and he's going to lose nearly a second there to Jimbo under that braking as well. So Wayne's got to be a little frustrated with that particular interaction as well.
Now that one's over. Let's jump back to Espedy. Well, it was extremely close between Espedy and Callisto, and then Callisto goes and makes a fool of me by overshooting Griffin's Bend. He's at great pace so far. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, he's kind of on recovery at this point, trying to get those tires cooled and underneath him. But as you head up this hill, you're asking so much of those tires to turn to pull you up this very steep hill at Bathurst. mountain is unforgiving when it comes to tire wear. And as you see, he's just kind of struggling to keep the car underneath him at this point, sliding through every corner. And then the downhill's no better for this either. He really sends it deep into the S's there.
Trust that the car is going to stick.
The last lap, because of that lap traffic, Chandler a 208.3, Waring a 206.2. And on this lap as well, it seems like he's gained a little bit. It was 5 seconds. It's now 2.9.
Yeah, I think there was another one that he had to get by. No, that's Jimbo Pfeiffer, actually. I see ahead of Waring at this point. Both of them are going to go wide through Forrest's elbow, and now Waring is through. That cost him that time right back.
Yeah, that's a full second gone just in one corner. It's heartbreaking.
Let's take another look at it just to show you what we mean about the traffic. The racing gods, unfortunately, not on your side. Target fixation almost.
Yeah, it seemed like he just carried too much speed through the corner, trying to brake around the same time as the car ahead of him, assuming that the car was going to be slow, and it just didn't end up being. So Waring, once again, locking up the inside tires, going through Murray's. He's pushing really hard, but he's just not getting much purchase right now.
An update on the lapped cars after the second set of stops. Down to 14 cars left on the lead lap. Challenger trying to catch up to Brian Barnes to put him one down.
And we do have a couple of cars that are out of this race. William Fletcher and Scott Corbin, both due to damage. Fletcher the most recent. And so both of those drivers are out at this point. We saw Corbin's damage, and I will go try and get an update on Fletcher.
I've said it multiple times earlier this season, but the talent level has just raised immeasurably here in the majors, because I remember in earlier seasons, the very first few years, this race saw so much attrition. Even with the same spare car that they have now, you only see a handful make it to the checkered flag. And the fact that this far in, 29 are still running is phenomenal stuff. Our leader and newly crowned champion getting ever closer to lapping Brian Barnes. But we'll duck away from that because it looks like 12th place might be of interest once more.
And Callisto closing once again up to the back of Espedy. These two guys are very scrappy over the top of the hill, as we've seen in laps past. Now they're actually catching the back of Jeff Schmeier pretty aggressively as well. So, oh my goodness, Callisto almost getting it 90 degrees to the direction of travel there. I mean, these guys are pushing as hard as they can right now, and they're not even on their final stints. I think Callisto desperately wants to get by Espedy.
Looked faster through that last portion of the lap as he's got it down into 0.2 of a second, right when he wants that slipstream up the mountain straight. Is this going to be enough, or can Espedy fend him off? A lot of drivers have been covering off that inside line. The straight line of speed of Callisto is nowhere to be found. What is going on there?
Might be a little bit of an evidence as to why Callisto is further back than we saw him. Remember, we were talking about him in 10th position. His pit stop is not slower than the rest of the guys. In fact, it's faster than most of the people around him. Though we did have some people...
Oh, sorry, he got loose once again coming out of the cutting.
So, I think... Oh! He made major contact right there with the outside wall.
And that will probably put paid to that battle. He's continuing on at a decent bit of pace, but he smacked that thing so hard, I can't imagine the car is going to be very quick.
Oh no. He's trying to carry speed through the dipper once again, but it's just, I mean, the wheel's got to be off on that thing. He probably just doesn't know it yet, but he'll know it as soon as he gets onto Conrad here. That's tire smoke coming off of Jeff Schmeier, who's locking up the fronts onto the straight. Austin Espedy actually might have an opportunity at Jeff, depending on his pace, but Callisto, like you said, much slower in a straight line.
Comes Espedy. This is for position. as the 30 is in his sights. Oh, and he's very, very fast in a straight line. Espedy can't quite outbrake him as they come down into the chase. I have a suspicion, that he was going to get a chance. He was going to get a chance. A big mistake out of the chase instead costs him as Kalisto gets through into the 12th that he wanted before.
You're right, Joe. He was going to get a chance. And he knew it too, so he put his foot down as fast as he could. And his left rear tire was not quite on the ground yet after taking so much curb through the chase. Ends up spinning those rear tires and spinning off to the inside.
So, Kalisto showing why he is a former champion here. Just keeping cool despite smacking the wall. And looking at that side, even though it's a little bit scraped up, let's see if it hurts him or not. We'll watch his pace on this lap. He's actually also closing in on Jeff Schmeier. And this might be due to tires. Schmeier on 15-lap-old tires to Kalisto's 8.
Yeah, we have a couple of drivers who are off strategy, Espedy being one of them. Schmeier is another driver who's off strategy, so while this is for position, Kalisto's gonna want to get this done quickly because he's losing time compared to the other drivers on his strategy by sitting behind Jeff Schmeier and, quite frankly, Austin Espedy. So, unfortunate for Lionel that he's as far back as he is considering how strong he's been so far this race.
Now, I'm assuming nobody's going to be taking this, but you never know. I believe if you wanted to pit now, you could make it to the end, could you not?
I believe it would be next lap, but yes, you could. Yeah, I mean, if you are Nick Kuhn, you could make it to the end if you put it this
Lap 59.
There we go. Straight from the Aussie's mouth. Let's
That was what we worked. That's what we worked out during the international split, anyway.
I mean, that's good enough for me, honestly.
That P3 battle's pretty close. Eric
Exactly.
Smith and Sue Driscoll.
Yeah, I was
And
just
Smith
trying to
got held up by 5 up.
Just trying to bring our attention back there. And Jimbo was a little bit wide. So that's going to compromise the line for Eric Smith. Driscoll will get the slipstream. Is this going to be enough for the UDOX driver? As they start to pick up speed. He's closing in. How brave is he going to be? Is Eric Smith going to defend? Oh, he lifts. Big lift.
Yeah, so Driscoll didn't want to get to the right because he was going to be on the outside here. Wanted to switch back to the left, but he had to wait till they were through the kink to do so because that's where Smith was covering and couldn't do it. That's why the chase is such a fun overtaking area because it's not a straight cut. This is the place you have to be.
It's also one of the most courageous passing areas in motorsports. The amount of speed you're carrying through there, and also the nature of these cars is that when they go over that bump, there's not as much downforce as you would hope when you go through that right-hander. You end up clipping that corner. It drops down. And it's just so hard to brake in a straight line when you get into that sector. So that's why it's so difficult to pass there.
This is one of our best battles on the track now.
Oh, and sorry, but Adam Halleck is off track once again. He was in a battle with Bob Beltrami coming down the Conrad Straight and heading towards the left-hander. Looks like he hit the outside wall. Let's see whether we can get this replay.
Let's see. I don't think he got the outside wall, but he did get the inside one. You're going to see it out of Forest Elbow. This is heading through the dipper here. You can see how close he is currently in the replay to the salami. This is where he's going to make his mistake. Almost looks like wheel spin, but it's awful slow happening.
Yeah, it is wheel spin, and then he puts on the brakes and ends up just spearing that car off into the grass, unfortunately. It's a little bit more major contact than it looked like from that angle, and unfortunately for him, he's already taken his spare car, so he's going to have to hope that that damage isn't too effective at this point. But Schmeier and Kalisto are still at it at this point. Kalisto cannot get past Jeff Schmeier, and Jeff, on 16-lap-old tires, is starting to hold up Kalisto significantly here.
Dog Bear driver is playing a good defense. As we've seen this a lot from Kalisto, the tail of the car just waggling off the corners. He's very greedy with the right foot, and yet he still seems to be much faster than Schmeier. Hasn't burnt the tires out too badly.
The supercar is naturally oversteering on the exit. Bootload of horsepower, 650. In the V8 engine, they still run V8 engines despite not being called V8 supercars anymore.
Oh, Andrew Waring's in the pits.
Okay. Now this is a misplay, maybe. Because he's going to need to fill the tank all the way up to get home. But he won't have burned out much fuel. So this will be a short stop.
It'll be a short stop, and if he gets lucky on traffic, maybe this is a case of, well, if I do what Challenger's doing, I'm not going to be able to beat him, so I got to just try something different.
This should be 30 seconds.
He is taking tires. He definitely can and needs to. That's the other thing is that the tire wear, Christian's going to have the advantage of that towards the end of the race. But like you said, like you said, Joe, if he does get the better of traffic, he might have an opportunity here.
Why is he still stopped? It's a long stop.
Crossing through 40 seconds now.
Yeah.
This is a regular stop.
But why? He hasn't even got a full tank. He must. There's an issue. There's an issue.
Did he get a penalty on entry?
I think, yep, that must be it, now that you say that. And that's a long hold usually. I'm going to double check to see what his pace was coming into pit lane.
Or does he have damage? He might have left side damage.
He did. It was a little bit, but I don't think that was enough to merit this long.
But also he has a spare car left.
Yeah, it's got to be a speeding
right
penalty.
Now.
It's got to be a speeding penalty.
I mean, the other question is the 60 is the 60x incident cap a hard cap or is it a pass through?
He did not get 60 incidents. I'm going to say that with authority. There's no way.
And there is no drive-through penalty this season.
And it looks like Lionel Calisto's finally got the move done on Jeff Schmeier. A bad exit from Hell Corner is going to make him susceptible there. So Jeff Schmeier, he's going to try and hold on and possibly take the braking through Griffins. No, he backs out of it. Calisto is finally ahead of Jeff.
Whoa, and now it's Jeff's turn to lose a little bit of the tail of the car, coming off of Griffin's Bend. Still stationary. Okay, this might not be a penalty at this point for Waring, because it's up to over 2 minutes. Maybe your initial assessment about the damage is what it was.
And then he just maybe possibly forgot to check the fast repair box. Sometimes it unchecks itself when you enter pit lane.
Or drama in real life. Technical issue. Who knows?
Could be. But it would have dropped him, and I think his timer would have stopped by then, wouldn't it? I'm not sure. Well, we've got another one in. Bradley Haley takes a scheduled stop that'll take him to the end in the 369. He pits from 5th place. This is definitely promoting a few people. Eric Smith now up into 2nd, though 16 seconds back from Christian Challenger. Still dealing with the now 3rd place driver, Steve Driscoll. And then they've got a long gap back to Travis Warling, 21 seconds back, who's promoted up to 4th.
Yeah, Andrew Waring has major front left damage. So something definitely happened with his car. He must have mistakenly taken his spare car on another pit stop and didn't have it to repair this damage.
Wow. Trying to see if I can find the incident here. Exactly what happened. Oh, okay. This happened out of Ryan's favorite corner, Quarry. He smacked the inside and then smacked the outside wall.
Austin Espedy and Jeff Schmeier both into the pits. Both of them, they were in a battle together. Espedy now a couple seconds behind Schmeier, and that is reflected in their pit lane times, even though they hit their boxes around the same time. This will be their final stop.
We're going to look at that battle in 3rd. Coming up through Griffin. Driscoll holding on by about a half a second, making sure that any sort of mistake will be costly for Smith. Don't forget, the traffic in front of them will continue to be just a assembly line of cars constantly coming through. Brian Barnes is the next one up the road.
So at this point, these two guys are not battling for a podium anymore. They're battling for second place on that podium. And if Christian Challoner gets into any trouble, which, I mean, you can't write off trouble around Bathurst. These guys then would be battling for the lead. So don't think for 1 second that Driscoll's going to back off just because he's standing on the bottom step of the podium at this point.
The only thing we can not expect, that we probably might in real life, is the intervention of kangaroos at some stage.
Kangaroos and the safety car, both things are not present in iRacing right now.
Well, safety car is present, but not in this race specifically. And new kangaroo model not confirmed yet, but hashtag soon. As they come down towards the chase. Down to 10 cars left on the lead lap. Smith keeping Driscoll at bay. Haven't seen him get an opportunity quite yet.
Now, normally in a situation like this, with Christian Challoner being 16.5 seconds ahead of Eric Smith, I would say that Christian could back off. But on a track like Bathurst, with it being so much about rhythm, is backing off really a good idea? Last time I tried to back off around Bathurst, I ended up hitting the inside wall of the cutting very hard because I wasn't taking it as fast as I was used to, and braked harder than I probably should have based upon the speed I was going. And it's those kinds of mental lapses that you can get into when you're no longer battling with someone else. You can just think to yourself, oh, I can back off and just cruise at this point. I've got a big gap. But if you do that, you might find yourself getting into a mental hole that you can't climb out of.
Callisto, just an update, has come in for his last stop. He saved his fast repair for that one because he's kind of notorious for that. I'm sure he would have liked it after how hard he hit the wall on that last stint. The V-Apex driver is hustling it as Smith almost losing it through the cutting, and the same thing there with Driscoll.
Yeah, Driscoll got very loose through the cutting there, and he's going to lose a heap of time over the top of the hill because he's going to have to try and get those rear tires back under control. That was almost disaster for Driscoll. He could have pushed way wide into the outside wall of the cutting.
Poor Andrew Warren is still in the pits and now 3 laps down. I'm assuming he's not going to be able to get back out if he's having to repair the engine after that contact.
I have no idea.
Wade Hayes is in.
I have no idea how long engine repairs are on the supercars, but if it's anything like the rest of the service, that's going to be half-hour minimum. And when he came into the pits, there was... he might be able to get back out and get something, but he's going to be so far down. It might not be worth it at that point.
Yeah, right now, our last car running is Brett Trocine, who's 4 laps down and 28th. We've since lost Mark Stevenson, the latest DNF, so 4 cars gone, might be 5, the way that things are looking for our former leader in this race. There's Brett on screen in the 944, getting a bit of a Dory Award here today.
Yeah, Brett's had some struggles. He was involved in the lap 1 incident. Well, not the lap 1 incident. It was the early incident that happened in the race. I believe it was more like lap 6. And he's had a couple of mixings with some other cars. And currently just trying to get some familiarization with the track and the car. Doesn't look like he quite has a setup that he likes, but underneath that thing as he locks it up going down through the S's and into the dipper. But any sort of experience on the mountain is invaluable, quite frankly.
And to be able to race in the top split here in the majors is not an easy feat. So this isn't to slag off anything of Brett's talent, because it took a lot just to be in this race. Now, our leader, who's done better than anybody else so far, has a 16.6 second lead over Eric Smith. The Kinetic Racer looking to seal off his newly crowned championship here in the Americas, his first time winning the Americas, with a victory here in
my
Australia.
goodness. Eric Smith and Brian Barnes almost came together coming into Skyline. That was a terrifying moment for Eric Smith. Let's see whether we can get a replay on this, because I am sure he's going to need a change of race suit after this.
Yeah, this would be a great onboard. It was Barnes just unfortunately putting wheels into the dirt. My goodness. Smith retained. Yeah, go ahead.
That is about as close as it gets, isn't it? That's the dangers of McPhillamy and of this racetrack as a whole. As soon as one person makes a mistake, guy behind or girl behind can't do anything about it, and you just got to pray that you get away with it. By the way, in terms of race pace up front, Christian Chalner still popping up low 206s. The 16-second lead he has over Eric Smith, who's the second clear of Driscoll.
We've got a little bit of a battle for 13th. Espedy out on fresh tires. 2 laps ago, he ducked in for his final stop as Nick Kuhn. We're expecting on lap 75, 12 laps on his tires, so should be pretty easy pickings for the 77. And indeed, there you go.
I think you saw how quickly Austin was coming and how aggressive he was being through the S's, especially into the dipper. And he said, you know what? We're on different strategies. I'm just going to let you go by. I'll hang on to your rear bumper a little bit and save some fuel.
Less than 20 laps to go now in this 81 lap event. Who's still got the fortitude left to hustle these cars around? Seems like Christian Challenger certainly does, the way he's been driving. Oh, and good news for fans of Andrew Waring. He is back out and running. Granted, he is now the last car running on the track. Trocine was able to overtake him.
And he does still have major damage because that spare car was already used, so Andrew Waring is going to be trying to pick up unfortunately, some consolation points today. But like you said, Joe, just finishing a majors race is enough of a points haul to make a big difference for your team. And you got to remember, he is definitely involved in this team's championship, trying to secure that second position before another race.
Talking about the championships, Steve Driscoll, who is currently sitting in 3rd on track, is 2nd in the points. Now, right now, remember I said it was very, very close between himself and Worling. Worling is behind him, and by some margin. So there's a big buffer. Driscoll doesn't need to worry as long as he holds that down. But he can't make any sort of mistakes, silly mistakes like clipping the wall, losing pace, and allow Worling through. Because if he falls down the order, probably just about 3 or 4 positions, Driscoll could lose that 2nd spot in the championship.
You're not allowed to be human when you drive these supercars around Bathurst. You have to be superhuman. You have to be able to put that car exactly where it needs to go. Although if you make one slight mistake, you end up in the wall, you end up with major damage, you end up out of this race. And wow, check a look at this battle. P9 between Brian Barnes and Wade Hayes.
Yeah, Wade Hayes is going to have the run on Barnes. And similar to what we saw before, it's 2 cars in different pit strategies. Hayes with the fresher tires gets by Barnes, who doesn't fight him very hard.
Now Wade Hayes, when the leaders do come in, he's just pitted for his final stop. He's got Bradley Haley ahead of him, who also pitted about 27 seconds ahead. Bradley Haley being the last car in the lead lap. Wade Hayes should be able to get his lap back when Christian Challenger pits, but it'll be pretty tight between the two of them for that particular occurrence.
Still waiting on pretty much all of the leaders to get in and take their final stop. Highest driver who has taken their final stop is Bradley Haley in 8th place. Looking to see, I think he actually might be looking at a top 5 potentially.
Yeah, and talk about a good recovery drive. Bradley Haley, he was into the pits early on for his spare car, and Bradley Haley proved that he had some speed to be up there in the top 10 shootout, but now proving that he's got some race pace to be able to climb his way back up in his recovery drive and get up here into the top 10, possibly top 5, depending on when people hit.
Let's see if we've got anybody looking likely to be in soon. Smith on 20-lap old tires, but we're expecting him to probably go through the full 24, 23. So he's got a little ways to go. Nobody else look expected in this next lap or 2.
Yeah, they should be able to go to lap 60, 72, shouldn't they? Yeah. Which means that only need to take enough fuel for 10 laps, which is that 30-second stop I keep talking about.
For a lot of drivers at this point, it's just a matter of bringing it home. Many are without battles. That could be worse sometimes, Adam, as sometimes drivers lose that concentration.
And this is when those hours and hours of solitary practice that we're able to get here on iRacing tend to benefit you. Just getting in a hosted session and driving around here, and just as we saw Steve Driscoll just losing a little bit of time there to Eric Smith, getting loose once again through the cutting. But those hours of solitary practice really help you out as far as just keeping your mental head in the game when it comes to trying to just get the car home after a long race like this when you're so tired. You've been racing for nearly 2.5 hours at this point. These drivers are just on the end of their energy. At this point, it's just habit that's getting you home.
Let's continue to watch our UDOX driver head down the hill out of Forest Elbow. Driscoll looking for a solid podium, but has been dropping off bit by bit from Eric Smith. It was less than a second for a lot of laps. It is up to 1.5 seconds now between himself and the 51. He gets ready to overtake Warner, who's just going to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. Warner's car certainly not looking all that great, as he's down in 18th, 2 laps down.
All right, so Eric Smith has come into the pit lane, actually. So that's going to release Steve Driscoll, like you said. So hopefully... Oh, Eric. Looking... He didn't miss his pit box,
No,
but he's very slow.
Maybe, you know what? Maybe he was adjusting fuel.
I think
Make sure...
adjusting something in the car, because I was scared for a moment that he'd missed his pit box, because he should be fine. He would have been fine to go out and do another lap, but the amount of time he would have lost would have been horrible. But Smith in for regular service now.
There's no pit crews to hit, so he's okay to drift off into the into the boxes for a brief while.
Will this be 30? Yes, it will.
Gone.
All right.
And to tell you the gaps that have formed, he only falls to 4th place after that.
Now, Driscoll should be in this lap with Challoner as well, we think, and Walling.
If
They
he's
could go a
pulling
couple more
similar
if they want
strategy,
to.
yeah.
I'd want to cover off that undercut, though, those fresh tyres.
Absolutely. If I'm
Same.
Steve Driscoll, I'm coming in for sure.
Remember, it's peak speed at the very start of the stint that makes a difference. At the end of the stint, the difference in tyres is quite small.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and to be fair, Driscoll doing a 207.4 last time around. He's definitely going to want tires to try and get back into those 206s like Smith's going to be able to pull out. Smith's last was, his last was his in-lap, so it's not representative. We'll find out how fast he's going in a couple laps' time once his tires come out, for sure.
We're watching Challoner on screen, still running that was actually not representative for him, a 207.4. He must have hit traffic. Before that, though, 206.7, 206.3, 206.5.
Driscoll stays out, Joe.
I was not expecting this. Not sure what he's on. He clearly has to be aware, because he could see him come into the pits. 1.5 seconds is not enough that he was out of sight by the time he ducked in.
And hopefully he's watching his relative, as all racers are instructed to do by iRacing. But Liam Quinn coming out of the pits. This is going to be interesting for Steve Driscoll, because is it possible that he could try and... I mean, it's never going to get any shorter as far as the fueling goes, so... At this point, isn't he just hemorrhaging time?
I would say so. At least that's what I would imagine to be the case. Again, I'm not the greatest strategizer. Quinn's, we mentioned Quinn coming out. This has been quite a quiet race for a driver who tends to be in the thick of things, going for victories. He's still looking at a nice top 10. Trying to see if he is under threat from losing his 4th place in the points, though. Yeah, it's very close between Barnes, but Barnes is actually directly behind him, and not very far behind at all.
But on an alternate strategy, Barnes still has yet to pit for his final time. So
yes.
Barnes will be coming in very shortly, and Liam should be distancing himself as he starts to get tired into those
quite safe, yeah.
Temperatures into those tires. Oh my goodness.
You got a hold of it now?
One of these days, yes.
This is the Kinetic Racing driver lunging down the hill, really taking it right up against the wall. Challenger still stays out this time by. Highest bidder still is Eric Smith, sitting in 4th place, ready for Challenger. Driscoll and Warling ahead of him to come in for stops.
Will Driscoll come this time, or is he committed to going as long as he can? He's going to go around again, so I think he's going to go until that tank runs out.
It's the best guess at this point, which 22 laps, so he'll get 1 or 2 more, and then he's got to come in, unless he's able to pull a Nick Kuhn. Where is our fuel saver? Number 19 is in 15th position right now, still has about 8 laps left on his stint if he goes as long as he has previously.
Yeah, and the trouble for Nick is that this is a cool idea, but the trouble is you're going to come up 6 laps short on making it to the round. So he's not really going to gain that much from this. I mean, he might gain a position or 2 on track, but the best he could probably do is 13th, unfortunately, with his strategy as it is right now. It might be one of those things where he acknowledges that his race pace isn't good enough to crack into the top 10, so he's trying something different, but unfortunately, it's not going to play out as well as he would like. The cars are not quite as clumped together as I think he would have preferred to make the strategy work as well as he could probably do.
He's kind of taking the Racing Point strategy. Oh, no, he's not. He's coming in right now.
Surprise!
So this will be a short stop for Nick Kuhn, and they'll be back out on tires similar to many of those around him for the first time.
So as he comes into the pits, I'm wondering whether we could get a lap comparison from Steve Driscoll and Eric Smith to see whether or not Smith is pulling on Driscoll. Now, I know they've only been out for probably 1 or 2 representative laps, but this will tell us whether or not Driscoll is losing a lot of time. At the moment, Smith is about 40 seconds behind Driscoll, and with Smith's stop being the representative one, here we go as far as the timing is concerned. So he's gaining only about a second that last lap. So even with the fresh tires.
And Driscoll's in.
All right, so we're going to find out whether or not Driscoll staying out for the overcut is going to work for him.
I don't think so.
Eric Smith hasn't had any traffic to deal with either, so.
Well, and you saw a second quicker for Eric Smith. It's going to be a slam dunk, essentially. It was a Hail Mary, but unfortunately the ball got bobbled in the end zone. And I think that Smith, who now comes up into the chase, is going to find himself a healthy lead for that second position. Granted, he's not going to be anywhere near to Christian Challenger once we get our overall leader in and finished with his final fuel stop.
There's one in the pits as well from the 3rd position, or from what will be 4th position once these guys go. Smith's out. This is pretty close. This is a lot closer than we thought.
Very short.
Oh boy.
Extremely short stop for Driscoll. 24 seconds. How can he get to the end that way?
You know, I think someone did that as well in International, 24-second, and it worked.
Well, I mean, Driscoll has the pick of Wayne Hutchison between him and Eric. Wayne's actually going to pull over, but Eric Smith has fresh and warm tires. He's done the 3 laps needed to get those things up to temperature. He's going to have to close that gap to Driscoll pretty much right now if he has any chance of trying to beat him. But
so
Driscoll looking strong.
Driscoll would have still had 2 laps left in the tank. And then he needed 12 more to get home. So, how much? 3.7 liters a lap to put in 12 laps. I don't know. Hang on.
Could it be potentially that Driscoll was fueling a little bit more than he needed to on the other ones potentially?
Christian Challoner, our leader, into the pits as Eric Smith gets held up in Forrest's elbow. So unfortunately, he's not going to get a good exit out of there. So that puts him yet another 0.5 seconds down as our leader in the pit box for the final time.
It's looking to be unchallenged, most likely. Still got a few drivers that need to make their third stop. Brian Bennett, one of those, along with Brian Barnes, who's actually in right now.
Oh, Christian Challoner, 22 seconds in the box. All right, so must have been doing a little bit of fuel saving.
He easily could have. He had such a gap. He really didn't have to worry about what's behind. The battle back for 12th. We were watching this before. Schmeier and Espedy. As they come into Murray's corner. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, they got broken up by Espedy's mistake coming through the chase about 10 laps ago, and now Espedy's pace has brought him back to the back of Schmeier. Can he get it done this time?
Just needs a good slipstream up the mountain straight as we ride on board, looking back in the rear bumper of Schmeier. This'll do it. Espedy's got the toe as they come over the hump. He's going to be forced to the outside. So Schmeier going to make him go the long way around. He's going to try it, but there's so many marbles out there. The car just does not stick.
That was extremely slow for both of them going through there. I think that Schmeier probably could have committed a little bit more heavily to Griffin's, and Espedy was willing to give it to him. But when Schmeier braked as hard as he did, Espedy thought, okay, I guess I have to go around the outside. But once again, there's just too many marbles. There's too little grip out there to be able to go, and so that just held both of them.
Let's stick here, but I can tell you that Bradley Haley just took 5th position away from Brian Bennett, who has exited his final stop. So Haley moves up with a top 5 here today.
It'll be impressive if he can hold on to it. He has tires that are 11 laps older than Brian Bennett, so it's going to be a challenge for him to hold on to that position, even with a 4.3 second gap.
Big mock-up. That's Schmeier in the black machine, who unfortunately smokes the tires down through Forrest Elbow. And is this going to help Espedy through? He's gaining at a rate of knots. He's going to have to go to the right side, but he's got so much pace, he's going to be fully clear, and Espedy moves himself into 11th.
Able to
That was easy.
Yeah, able to slow himself down for the chase as well, able to get that all the way completed. Yeah, pretty easily done.
Down to 10 laps to go. Christian Challoner out there leading the way. By the way, the temperature's continuing to fall. It's 97 degrees Fahrenheit here as we're at 3:30 in the afternoon, 36 degrees Celsius on the track surface. We are... Oh, and did we lose Waring? When did Waring duck out of this race?
A while ago.
It would have been one of those opportunities where, I mean, Brett Trocine had passed him. He's slow enough on track that he wasn't going to gain any time. I think he just called it because there was not really much point of going on unless somebody else wrecked out.
Yeah, probably also didn't want to risk other people's races since he was off the pace. So that'll be our 5th retirement now, and we're down to 27 still running. We have 9 cars left on the lead lap. It is Liam Quinn at this point, the last one still running on the lead lap, and that won't be for long. His teammate on the Kinetic Racing team is closing up behind him and actually going to lap him right now as Christian Challoner now makes it 8 cars left on the lead lap. Wade Hayes, the next one up the road. I'm trying to remember at the Lotus 49 race, the U.S. Grand Prix, what we were down to 2 left on the lead lap, I want to say.
It was, yeah, I believe it was the top 2 left on the lead lap. It was, I mean, Christian's pace has been amazing. And he said he just put in the fastest lap of the race. He just puts in a 2:05 flat. Are you kidding me?
Well, we've had a lot of cloud cover on this lap for what it's worth.
Yes, and the temperatures are down. It's down to 36 degrees Celsius on track. He's just out of the pits on light fuel with fresh tires. Just got the tires warmed up. I understand the conditions are idyllic out, like, you know, for his car. But I mean, the man's been racing for 2.5 hours and still has the mental fortitude to put in the fastest lap of the race. That's what's impressing me, especially in a car that he himself said he was not comfortable in.
In previous seasons, we saw other dominant drivers who looked very difficult.
Ryan Toma. Oh boy. That was close. Ryan Toma looks like he hit the outside wall coming through Solman Park. He's now taking a tow.
Let's see if we can find a replay on this one. Here it is.
That's him slow pulling off the track, but this was... he hit pretty hard.
Car's already squirming around there. So we're seeing multiple drivers hit the wall. Nope, not that spot.
Oh,
no.
He blew his engine. He blew his engine going over the hill.
Maybe he has an H pattern shifter and just picked the wrong gear.
I mean, he's had a lot of damage.
As well, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I'm
true.
with you, Ryan.
Oh, man. That's got to be gutting, because every driver wants to see the checkered flag, especially in a grueling race like this, and Toma will not be able to do so with way too many repairs to try and effect in this few laps. I was saying earlier, we've had some incredibly dominant drivers in the past, but Christian Challoner has proved to cut above. The winningest driver in the majors, actually. And he's just adding to the tally today, it seems. So he's going to get win number 10 this season.
The amount of time he's done that in, too, Joe, has been really impressive. I mean,
yeah.
The Majors Series prides itself on trying to crown a champion who can do as many disciplines as they can possibly fit into a season. And Christian Challoner has proven that he's not just fast on the ovals, he's not just fast in the NASCAR machines, but he can also put his foot down in much more challenging scenarios, on the dirt, in these supercars around Bathurst, in the Lotus 49 of all machines. I mean, it's very, very interesting.
He's not been shy about his disappointment with how this season has been going in the Coca-Cola Series. For those not familiar, he races on the pro level in the oval cars and is incredibly fast on the circle tracks, but just hasn't been getting the results he's wanted. This has got to be a bright spot this season, not only taking the championship, but doing so in a way that asserts his dominance. The question becomes, who can challenge him? Who can face off and try and take it to him next season in the Americas? I assume he's electing to come back and try and take another.
I mean, there were some jokes and some rumors that he might jump over to the international region and try and take a win in all 3 regions.
Only thing he couldn't claim is the brief appearance of the Atlantic region when we had the Pacific and the Atlantic here over in the Americas. Missed out on that opportunity, unfortunately.
Closing up on Wade Hayes to put Wade a lap down. Wade struggling with the rear end of that machine towards the end of this race. He just has not quite had the pace that he would like today. Just struggling with the rear end of that car all the way through the race today. Just a little bit too much. It seemed to be under braking the most. So he's pulling over to the left side. Probably signaling the Challoner that he's going to be able to go through. Flashes his brake lights at him. Christian's going to line up for the inside of Griffin's, and Wade's going to let him go.
Now, I'm trying to pull up the stats here to see if I can figure out who finished in second last season in the Americas, because I'm pretty certain that Driscoll was up there and fighting for it. and came up shy. And yet we're seeing Driscoll not only second on track today, but looking at second in the points after today, which, interestingly enough, would put him as essentially kind of the new Lionel Callisto, who was notorious for a number of seasons for being second place and second place and second place, and eventually he took the top spot.
Yeah, but Driscoll's just been falling off over the last 2 stints. What was just a 1.5 second gap to Christian and Andrew has now turned into a 22, nearly 23 second gap back to Steve Driscoll. Eric Smith just has not been able to gain on Steve Driscoll ever since those pit stops were completed. Steve on 3-lap newer tires. Eric Smith was about a 1.5 seconds behind Steve, and is now 6.7 seconds behind. So Steve Driscoll on that going longer. We questioned it, but it turns out we were the ones who were wrong.
Absolutely. And that's why we're up in the booth and not down there on the track.
Apparently.
7 laps to go. Going to be 6 laps to go here in just a moment. I don't know how Christian manages to keep up with this pace and keep running this far ahead without slipping up. Let's take a look, though, at 5th place here.
Yeah, so here's an interesting development. So Bradley Haley is 15 laps into his stint. His last stop was a 39.6. And he's starting to lose pace to Brian Bennett, who's tucked in behind him. This is for that top 5 position. The question is was that last stop long enough to get him to the end here? He's going to have Christian Challoner probably won't lap them by the time they finish this race in 6 laps time. So they're going to have to complete the full distance. I guess my question is, did Haley stop long enough to take enough fuel? I think the answer is yes, based upon the other pit times that I'm looking at.
39.6. Yeah, I think he'll make it. 15 laps into the stint, 6 more to go. That should be plenty.
In which case, then Bennett's just showing some great pace in this final stint here. Now, granted, he is on much fresher tires than Bradley Haley, so that could be making a lot of the difference. But I expected Haley to be able to hold that 5-second gap that he had over Brian Bennett, but Bennett has been able to close that down to a second now.
I was looking through to see if we've had any hard chargers that have overtaken Callisto, and we have one that has 11 positions up. That's Jimbo Pfeiffer, actually, from 31st up to 20th. In fact, if I recall correctly, he started from pit lane.
Yes, he did.
Ooh.
So a very good drive from Jimbo to start a good 30 seconds behind the field to make his way up to 20th. Oh!
And Haley gets overtaken by Bennett. Oh, does he? Bennett off the course, tries to keep it from spinning around in front of Steele. He catches it, but there goes the position he just got.
And this was a very interesting moment from Bradley Haley because he was just slow through Murray's. I think he actually got loose through Murray's, so that's what was allowed Bennett to go through.
Let's take a look at it. We still got time to try and recatch him. Looking for the replay down through Murray's. Watch them currently live going up the hill here into the park section. There we go. Looks like we've pulled it up. Ooh,
Yeah,
a
very
lot of
good.
wheel spin. Oh,
Yeah. So that's Bradley Haley. I mean, he's on 15 lap old tires at that point. Just goosed it up a little bit too much through Murray's there.
Well, he's got a 1.5 second gap over Bennett. Bennett's regrouped. Both of them have made mistakes. They both know that they're fallible at this point. They've only got, it's going to be, 5 laps this time by for them. We're actually close to being lapped. We're down to 7 cars left on the lead lap. Dick Mueller, the next one in line for Christian Challoner to go through. This is our leader in the 37 right now.
I think Christian's going to be able to get Dick Mueller, but I think that'll be the last one he'll be able to get today. Nick Kuhn would be the well, actually Nick Kuhn would be another one to get lapped. Second time. We're gonna take a look at Dick Mueller. This is him coming through. I mean, good on Dick Mueller for getting up to 7th position. We haven't talked about him much today, but I mean, getting in the top 10 around here at Bathurst is no easy feat, as we've seen from following Lionel Callisto's run. But Dick Mueller doing a great job in 7th position, just riding around by himself at this point, just trying to put down those laps. I'm sure all of them are just begging for those laps to finally tick by and hopefully walk away from this one fairly clean.
I mean, if I was in Dick's position, because he's not nearly close enough to Bennett to try and challenge for 6th, I'd probably let Christian by as soon as he gets within a couple seconds. I'd be dead tired. That battle down to half a second once again. Bennett wasted no time trying to close the gap to Haley.
Yeah, Haley's tires just spent at this point. There's not much he can do in defense. I mean, the best thing he can do is to try and set up a good exit out of Forest Elbow to give him the best chance of defense on Conrad, but you can see he's just squirming in that car.
Haley, of course, if you're just joining us, had a little bit of an incident early on. Had to take an alternate strategy, which is why his tires are so much older. So not desirable. I'm sure he didn't want to try and wind up this way.
Doing a good job. Out of Forest Elbow, get the power down very cleanly and smoothly. Got to be careful not to be too quick getting that power down with those tyres being as old as they are. He gets a good exit on the Conrad straight, so this is going to allow him to be at least a little bit comfortable. He can cover off the left-hand side, which is the inside line for the braking zone of the chase. And Bennett's not even going to get close enough. Just got to do that 3 more times.
He's still gained quite a bit. Yeah, it's down to 0.2 of a second right here. I almost wonder if he'll have a shot up Mountain Straight if he plays his cards right. Let's stick with this. Down into Murray's. We saw a mistake from Haley there before. This time, though, nice and clean. As Bennett stalks him, riding right in the tire tracks. This is where he's got to get the shot off the corner. Oh, he's very close to the bumper. Doesn't want to hinder his run. Oh, this was very good, though, Ryan.
Here we go. He's got the inside. And Haley, I think, must have lifted off because that is just too easy for Bennett. Through he goes. Bennett is going to steal away P5.
All right, so the 71 now up into a top 5 position. And Bradley Haley back exactly where he started. So he can't be too sad about it, but still I'm sure he would have liked that nice little stat in his tower.
Yeah, an excellent recovery drive for Bradley Haley to get back up there to his starting position. But yeah, like you said, I think he would have loved to get that top 5 on his tower for sure.
Still nearly 30 seconds between Challoner and Driscoll up at the front with now 3 laps to go. Challoner, make it 2.5 because he's already up on top of the hill.
He's still putting in, low 206s, so he's not going slow by any means. He's definitely taking it a little bit more cautious than he was when he was battling with Andrew. I can see that the car's a little bit more in control. He's not taking quite as much curb as he was when he was battling with Andrew, but he's still going quick out there, still putting in great lap times.
And much to the pleasure of our cohort from down under, he's driving Holden to take this victory.
As it should be.
For those curious, the highest Mustang is Eric Smith, currently in 3rd, who has not caught up with Driscoll. We talked about that a little bit earlier, that the pit strategy very much wound up in favor of Steve, despite our predictions.
Holden taking the victory in the real Bathurst 1000, and I'm sure that Christian Challoner is happy that they hung on for one more season as well, that he might be able to have the opportunity to take this win home in the Holden as well.
Actually makes me curious. I'm not sure if our director knows. What car does he drive in the Coke series? Ah, so that explains why he's in a Holden. He drives a Chevy over there. So obviously representing the bow tie, no matter if it's down on the opposite side of the world. Down to 2 to go now. And at this point, he is quite literally cruising.
All the rest of the battles have gapped out to over 3 seconds, with the exception of Brian Bennett and Bradley Haley, but Bradley falling back. So most of these drivers in fact, all these drivers just trying to hang on at this point and get to the end.
And fortunately, not many of them with close battles. Haley and Bennett continues to spread apart now that Brian is overtaken into that 5th spot. It was a little bit close between Hayes and Quinn. He got it down less than 4 seconds, but the time has just run out for the 24 to be able to try and run him down. A driver who has really been holding on to it. We talked about it earlier, that gets the Dory Award is Brett Trocine, who still continues on at 5 laps down. And I know we harp on this. The Dory Award, for those wondering, means you just keep swimming. And when you don't have anybody to race and you're at the very back of the pack, that's what it takes to just bring home a little bit of pride. And I think Brett deserves some today.
Yeah, Brett's got a nice paint scheme on that machine, and he's doing a good job just driving it around here, trying to get those laps in, just trying to get to the end of this race. He'll get some nice points in the championship for being up here in the pro split, so great opportunity there for sure.
White flag comes out for Christian Challoner. Why don't we ride on board with the master, see how it's done, see how to drive this car fast. It certainly drives a little sideways as he puts some counter steering into it. We're going to watch from the helmet cam. It's really interesting when they get to the mountain section here after Griffins and the walls close in.
Still hitting the apex there. Wow, and look at that. Keeps the power application down as he exits Griffins there. Ends up with a little bit of opposite steering there to make sure to keep the car under control, but oh boy, putting a little bit more goose into it at this point.
He hasn't won this race yet. If he wrecks it, Driscoll could run him down. It's 30 seconds, 25 technically. My goodness.
It's great helmet cam from Dougie Beard as we go over the top of the mountain. All right, let's see how he does on the braking.
If this is any smoother. Running it to the ragged edge for part of this lap. That looked a lot better. Very little having to saw back and forth. And then down into one of the last difficult corners that could possibly trip them up. A little bit of correction, but not much.
Just a little bit of style.
Right. Just 2 more braking zones to go for Christian Challoner to take win number 10 this season. And this is round 13. The number 37 car is almost unstoppable. Down through the chase, just ahead of him, it's Dick Mueller. Let's see if he's going to give up this lap just to have the race done, or if he's going to try and run everything here today at Bathurst. Challoner certainly has run everything from lights to flag, but he didn't do it all the way in first place. Still, he is our winner here today. Christian Challoner with a stunning win.
Steve Driscoll, a good second place for him for sure. Getting the job done. Didn't quite have the pace to keep up with the leaders, but was able to hold off Eric Smith with a fantastic pit strategy for the end. Able to do that overcut and pull quite a gap on Eric Smith. Steve Driscoll comes home in second.
And 3 different teams representing the 3 different steps of the podium. Kinetic, Unorthodox, and V Apex with Eric Smith hopping in there. Looks like Travis Warling going to come home a bit of a distant 4th. Sadly off the podium, but still bringing home valuable points for UDOX.
What could have been for them, though?
I'm sure he's a little bit disappointed on that side as he brings it around Murray's. And then to tell you the distance that has been put between many of these drivers, it is another 52 seconds to Brian Bennett. He hasn't even gotten off the mountain. So he's down and off of Forest Elbow. Haley's nowhere to be seen. Is Haley slow, actually?
Seconds back.
You talked about fuel being a concern.
He's short shifting. He's definitely short shifting.
It's 6 seconds to Mueller. He could still lose another position.
Oh, he's cut the engine off. Yeah, so as we watch Brian Bennett come through the chase, Bradley Haley coasting into the chase. He turns the engine back on, but here comes Brian Bennett for fifth.
And it to take fifth, but Haley, who puts the engine back on. Dick Mueller's 4 seconds behind. Does he have enough? He's very, very slow here. I think he's going to get it. Just around the corner, creeping to the line for a sixth place. Wow. So, as that's everybody, let's take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. So stick around. Welcome back to Mount Panorama Circuit. Round 13 for the majors with a Bathurst 500 went to Christian Challenger, taking his 10th victory of the season. That was over Steve Driscoll, who could only manage to be 26 seconds behind him. But Steve needs to be proud of that pit strategy that jumped him from third to second place, ahead of Eric Smith, who settled for P3. Travis Warling was a fourth today, a whole minute behind our leader with Brian Bennett in P5. Climbing up from 11th, we should point out. Bradley Haley finishes exactly where he started in 6th, and Dick Mueller was the last car in the lead lap in 7th place. Wade Hayes took 8th ahead of Liam Quinn in P9. Lionel Callisto with a good climb, rounding out our top 10 after starting in 20th.
Lionel and Austin Espedy started off in 20th and 21st. Espedy finishes in 11th today, with Jeff Schmeier finishing in 12th after that hard-fought battle over the last couple of laps of the race. Then we have Brian Barnes finishing in 13th position, with Samuel Harris coming home in 14th after he made that unfortunate mistake through Murray's that ended up putting him back in the field. Nick Kuhn comes home in 15th, the last car one lap down. Then we have Brian McGreevy, Adam Halleck, and Bob Beltrami 2 laps down, as well as David Warner, and Jimbo Pfeiffer starts our cars 3 laps down in 20th.
Ryan Steele was back there in 21st, Wayne Hutchinson as well, Lynn Kitchlow, David Hall, and Jason Waller 4 laps of drift, 5 off for Brett Tozen. And then retirements in the form of Ryan Toma, Andrew Waring, Mark Stevenson, William Fletcher, Scott Corbin, and Mark Herzog, your 32 cars from Bathurst.
We've got our winner ready to talk to us. Christian Challoner joins us. Christian, congratulations on victory number 10. But talk to us about the first part of that race where you found yourself suddenly behind Waring. Was there any frustration that you'd lost the lead so quickly and that you couldn't seem to make the pass?
So that was kind of similar to what I found last year when we raced this. When I raced this in the European region with Tim Clayson's, like we just got stuck together. It didn't seem to matter who was out front. The draft and whatnot was just always keeping the two cars together, whichever way around it was. And I mean, it seemed like it was a lot harder to pass this year than it was last year because we swapped positions a lot last year. Whereas here we just didn't at all. I tried a lot of times, especially that first run. And I went to the strategy of trying to save an extra lap of fuel, and I got kind of caught up a little bit on my in lap, and so that didn't work. And yeah, it was. I don't want to say it was frustrating because, especially the first one, because I knew about the whole draft effect and everything. I wasn't taking as many risks as I was, say, the third run. So especially on downhill, Andrew was so much better through there. He was definitely running closer to the walls and whatnot, and he was a lot faster. But that made it really, really difficult for me to try and make any passes down Conrad. So it was kind of expected, but it is a bit tricky. It's a bit difficult. It's kind of an interesting effect because you expect to see that whole draft lock thing on ovals, but maybe not so much in a V8 supercar.
Behind the scenes, I heard a little bit of anxiousness coming into this one, as this isn't your favorite combo from what I've heard. Now that you've come through and taken the victory, what are your feelings?
I'm sorry. I'm really curious to know who said that this wasn't my favorite combination, because this is like one
I
of my
lied to you?
absolute favorite combinations.
Somebody lied to me. Somebody lied to me.
Yeah, they definitely did. This is absolutely one of my favorite combinations. It's one of the most fun car and track combos that we go to in the series. I'm glad that we keep going back to it. I enjoy it every time we come to it. I was I wasn't at all surprised that I had a really close race with Andrew. I fully expected it. I'd seen in the practice times and whatnot and qualifying times, and I knew he was going to be really, really fast. I mean, he's been really fast. Every race he's turned up to this season, he's been fast. So I wasn't at all surprised that I was fighting with him again. And yeah, it was really fun. And I mean, it's a fun car to race with. You know, we obviously had that little bit of contact, but I'd actually like to give him a shout out for that. I kind of thanked him when he dropped into my stream, but I want to give him a shout out on the broadcast as well, because that was a really good display of sportsmanship, and that's why I like racing in this league and why I enjoy racing against the people that are in this league, because of acts like that. You know, it's nice that it's not just about winning the race, but it's about winning the race in the right way. And obviously he felt there that he was going to wait for me, and I really appreciate that. And it was a lot of fun to be able to continue that battle on. It was a shame to see him have that incident, and obviously didn't have the faster pair remaining, and that kind of ended the fight, because it was really, really fun. I had a great time battling with him.
Great watching it from our end as well. I know we've got one more round left, so this is slightly premature, but now that you've got the championship and you've got 2 of them actually, are you coming back next season to defend? And will it be in the Americas, or are the rumors of you heading over to international true?
Well, I think international, but just time wise, is just not going to work for me next year. So I think the options are definitely going to be either Europe or Americas. And I mean, I very much enjoy running the Americas one. So I think I'm definitely going to be back, and I'll probably be back in the Americas region, I think.
That was Christian Challoner, our winner here today at Bathurst. As I get ready to go give 50 lashings to a certain director, it looks like Adam is going to be talking to Steve Driscoll.
Absolutely, Steve. A great run from you today, but talk me through that decision on the final pit stop to go long. I know that you were able to save some fuel and to get a faster stop, but it had to be a little bit stressful knowing that Eric Smith was out there on fresher tires for a couple laps.
Yeah, it was pretty stressful there. One of the biggest things I saw there was I had him on my relative, and I saw he was in traffic, so I just thought I had clear sailing there, no traffic in front of me, so I might as well take my time there. And as soon as I saw there's a bit of a gap, I went ahead and took my chance down the pit road. I think I was beating him coming into the pits just about every time, so I was taking those chances that and also on fresh tires, I think I had the edge on him. As soon as we got about 15 laps on him, he started chipping away. So I wanted the freshest tires I possibly get there. And
Yeah, and how was it battling with him all race? Because you two seemed to be very similar on pace, and it seemed like the mountain was both giving and taking to both of you.
oh, it was a great battle back and forth all day long. Pretty much, I thought I had a little bit more for him up in the mountain, but basically forest elbow and back up, I didn't really have much for him. Um, it was it was just good and hard racing between me and Eric, and I really look forward to it. And it was fun to see Christian disappear into the wild blue yonder like he usually does. But Eric and I had a great battle.
Definitely. And as we head next week into the or next round into the California 500, do you think you're going to have are you looking forward to a different race there? I mean, it's very much a draft track for sure in the Delara.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I'm sure Travis Warren's going to put a heck of a setup underneath it, and this will be my last regular season race for UDocs in the next round. So really looking forward to it, and hoping to kick it off with a bang, and battle Travis there for that P2 spot, and just really looking forward to it. I struggle a little bit on the IndyCar, but I'm just looking forward to do something exciting.
And Steve, before we let you go, is there anyone you want to thank for your second place finish today?
Yeah, I'd like to thank my team once again. Travis, Drew did a great job coaching me a little bit there. I was about 4 seconds off the start of the week. I want to thank Direct Innovations, Pure LGMD2I, and Simability, and once again everybody at Unorthodox. Another great few weeks.
Well, thanks for talking to us, Steve, and we look forward to seeing you next round.
Thank you very much.
Back to you, Joe.
We got our third place finisher ready to join us as Ryan's going to be talking to Eric Smith, the number 32, who got a little bit snookered on the strategy.
Eric, good job today. You pick up a podium in the end after starting from fourth. Talk us through your race.
I just had a blast racing with Steve there, back and forth. I feel like he was a little better than me on the fresh tires, but after 10 or 12 laps, he would start coming back to me. It was just kind of that over and over again.
What about the strategy then? Looking back in hindsight, we can always figure out how we could have done things better. What is it for you with the strategy you maybe could have figured out differently?
Well, I thought it was going okay. I kind of got screwed on the last pit stop there. After the fueling was done, they just kind of held me for about 3 seconds, and that kind of gave the position to Steve, and then I didn't really have much for him with the fresh tires.
If we go back to the very start, Eric, you didn't have the greatest of launches, did you?
No, apparently you have to launch these cars instead of dropping the clutch like an idiot, so learned my lesson there.
Yeah, use the line locker next time, buddy. That'll help you out. But hey, you recovered well from that, and you walk away with a P3 from P4 on the grid. Who are the people that help you get it done?
Guys in this team are always really supportive. I'm looking forward to California. These guys are got a lot of IndyCar guys in our team, so I'm sure we'll have something special for that race.
Sure you will. Good job getting today, and we'll see you next time out.
Thank you.
One more driver that we have to talk to, a top 5 for Brian Bennett, which he solidified in the final laps of the race. Brian, nicely done to get yourself that position, but it looks like that climb started very early as you were picking them off there from just about the start.
Yeah. It was difficult, I guess. It always is, but I haven't been online much lately, so I was kind of picking up the pace. I'm trying to learn as I went and trying to minimize mistakes. But early on, I had seen Brad had hit the wall, perhaps, and he blew a motor. So I kind of thought he might come back to me in the end, looking at his fuel. And then I think Dick Mueller must have had a speeding in the pits penalty, which kind of set him behind me as well. that makes it easy when you can capitalize on their mistakes.
Absolutely. Well, it's doesn't matter how you finish up there. It's if you finish ahead of them, you get that spot. So obviously, the temperatures went down significantly from the start of the race, which we did not expect. Could you feel that in the car, where it went from I think it was like 117 at the start of the race down to about 90 degrees?
I didn't really. I think my lap times were very consistent, like 207s, high 207s the whole race. So, I just I wasn't my setup wasn't dialed in as good as it could be, perhaps, and so on and so forth. I didn't really feel a difference. But that's me. I'm a bit rusty. I've been offline for a few months.
Yeah, and speaking of that, are you able to take the Sector 5 car over to Auto Club for the finale here in a couple weeks?
Yeah, I've been working about uh, 70 or so hours a week for like 3 months straight, and getting up at 03:30 in the morning, which is the deal breaker. That's what really wipes me out. I've done that really for a couple of years, but the early start's been getting me. Yeah, we'll be there. We'll be there at Auto Club.
All right. Well, we look forward to it. And again, congratulations on what must be a very satisfying run today.
I honestly, top 5 was my goal. I did win this event last season, and I doubted I could defend the victory, but I wanted to turn up. I wanted to be in the show. So top 5's good. That was my goal, and I made it. So I'm happy.
I was every bit fifth place finisher today. And that's going to close us out with another quick mention of our charity for today. That is missionaustralia.com.au. Link in the description below if you want to go and see if you can help out. And a big thank you to the majors for bringing us back for another season of coverage. Thanks goes out to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts that we've got listed on your screen. And on here, you can also see June Lalonde's contact. She provides all of our wonderful music. Thanks to the team today, Sean, Adam, Ryan, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check out our social media outlets. Our Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook is Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram is GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, our merchandise store, also linked below in the description, is simply gsrc.storenv.com. And while you're down there, make sure and subscribe to the channel. The next race, as we mentioned, heading over to Auto Club. It's been a while since we finished on that race in this series. The IndyCar is taking to that track. That'll be Sunday, November 1st at 8 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. See you on the track.